Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast, is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our podcast network, head to patreon.com/laststandmedia.
It's time to do it again, ladies and gents. Welcome back to Constellation, Last Stand Media's finest podcast. I've got a small but powerful squad with me today. Let's say hi to these dudes, starting with my brother, the mighty Lord Cognito. What's up, Cog?
Chilling, man. I was talking to Gene earlier. I'm like, I'm hurting. I'm going through a lot right now. So much, man. And that's how we get started on game releases. Oh, my God. It's crazy. Yeah. And for me, it's like all the games I love. And it's like, you know, obviously the Oblivion stuff and, you know, all that stuff. And then obviously Claire Expedition is out. And then I'm doing, man, it's just so much going on. But it's good problems. Good problems there.
Yeah, okay. But the pressure is there.
Yeah, so I'm just doing a lot, and there's a lot of coverage and planning. So your boy's hurting a little bit, coming in on riding a little bit fluid. We're going to get amped up for the Stelly. But, yeah, it's good to be here, man. Good to see you there again, of course, Gene.
Yeah, this is a good crew. And you know what? We were just talking about it before we started the camera. We're all coming in with that sort of energy, TJIF, thank God it's the end of the week. I'm pretty beat. Energy, so we're all on the same wavelength at least, so that's got to count for something.
Yes,
right? I hope. Listen, let me go over to the next guy, our last for today. He's lean, he's mean, he's a podcasting machine. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about Gene Park, everybody. What's up, Gene?
Doing good. I am also similarly, Cog and I that walked in here, we stumbled into this room, both a little tired and exhausted. This morning I had an important call for work. But right after that, I got some blood work done. You know, like,
that's nice. You
know, just to make part of my medical cleanups or whatever, medical checkups. So, yeah, you're catching me, you know, with less blood and less sleep than usual. But yeah, you know, ready to go for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like three dudes.
I know it doesn't sound like I'm like, yeah, ready to go.
Ready to go, guys. Let's go. Let's do it.
But yeah, like you said, Dagan, it's very TGIF. It's the end of the week, you know, winding down.
I feel that. Yeah. I totally get it. Yeah. It's like three guys staggering in, hungover.
Yeah, like we was at the club.
We didn't have any of the fun.
Without the fun.
You know? And this is the thing. This is the selfless bit. Not to pat ourselves on the back too much of podcasting, though. We have to roll in week after week, regardless of how we're feeling. Trying to entertain you cats out there. It's not easy all the time. But it's fun. It's, again, like we were saying, good problems.
Yes.
Good problems. It could be worse.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you guys have noticed your boy Colin not here today. Colin and Micah are on business to Massachusetts. I'm not sure if they're en route, if they're already there, but Micah had you guys may know, had a passing in her family. Her beloved grandma passed away. So it's finally time for the funeral services and stuff. So they're there tending to, you know, not the most fun business, but they got to do what they got to do. It's a little bit of a hike from Richmond to Boston area too. So that's we're wishing them the best. Better them than me. That drive is a freaking nightmare. Shout out to what's the highway up in Boston? Route 90?
Yeah, I think it was 90, 91 or 90. One of them.
Forget about it.
Oh, it's brutal.
Dude, makes me pray for the BQE. I'm like, I'd rather be anywhere in New York. You know, Boston.
If you say it's better than BQE or like the LIE, then you know it's bad.
Forget about it.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Yeah, Boston's tough. Boston will make you pray for New York traffic.
Absolutely true. Accurate statement.
Yeah.
First time I went to Boston, I think for a PAX or whatever, I was like, this is arguably the worst traffic I've ever experienced. Like, this is
So bad.
brutal. Like,
I don't even remember
downtown.
seeing roads when I went to Boston.
Bro, I was like, why is
it's full of cars? You know?
Yeah, yo, I was like, why is there so many cars? And it's like, why is there so many roundabouts? I'm like, this is the city of the roundabout. Like, I was like, was this made during the horse and buggy? No one updated this infrastructure. Like, I like DC. You got, the big thing. It's better. Like, but it's actually really bad. I hated my time traffic wise.
It's brutal.
Going to Boston.
Oh, it's brutal. We used to take the Greyhound back in my college days from Philly to Boston pretty often because we had a friend who eventually went to BU.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to go and stay the weekend with him and stuff. And the bus drivers, you would just see them getting so aggravated as they were approaching Boston. And the road rage.
Yes.
And now I get it. It's like, yeah, you just kind of watch it like, this guy's cranky as fuck. And it's like, yeah, because he has to drive in Boston every day.
Yeah, that'll affect you.
That'll do it. That'll do it, my friend. Listen, it's good to be here with you guys today. We got 3 fun topics. I'll give it that. And you know what? I didn't even think about this. Where were we going to start today? Let me look at these things. Cog, I think I'd like to start with you. I like this topic. Go about many different ways with it. If you don't mind, man, would you do the honors? All right.
Yeah, like I was speaking to you guys in the pregame. Your boy saw Sinners last night. I've heard obviously the raving about it. I'm not going to spoil anything because I know Gene ain't seen nothing. But everyone was like, "Hey, you got to see it. You got to see it." So I finally, booked a ticket. Was able to get a late night showing in my bougie dine-in theater.
Oh, I love it.
Where we have the Smithers button. They come and you press the button and they come and serve you all types of food and refreshment. I'm addicted to dine-in theaters.
That sounds amazing to me.
Oh, I love it.
We don't have one.
What?
I mean, we have, what's the chain? Alamo Draft House?
Alamo Draft House.
That's not too far from here.
So you have one. Alamo's good. I would say that's in the it's in the mid-tier, but it's good.
Yeah.
And I would say it's above AMC's, but the best I would say is iPick. iPick, in my opinion, is that's
where you were last night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Show was serious.
I gotta check this out.
But so I'm like, all right. So it got me thinking, good movie, and I was just like, you know what? I wanted to talk about. I'm surprised the topic I wasn't taking, like our favorite horror films, horror games, kind of thing. So, as far as setting it off, just things that kind of either held you in place in fear or made you uncomfortable, and kind of thing. So for me, I've always been intrigued by not necessarily the jump scare horror, but more so things where is a hopelessness, is a desolate. I think of a 28 Days Later, or even The Walking Dead, shows like The Walking Dead, where it's you have that. My horror is that fear of societal breakdown when people lose their morality, because then I'm like, yo, this could happen, right? Like this is a real life thing, and I think that's what gets me more scared. So I was thinking about that, and stuff that makes you uncomfortable. Now, as far as the game side of it, I was like, okay. Silent Hill is a no-brainer for me. You know what I'm saying? Just the fog, the atmosphere.
Sure.
It just makes you uncomfortable being here. Not necessarily jump scaring you out to death all the way, but I just thought it was genius the way they handled that. And then obviously you do have your iconics, the pyramid heads and stuff like that.
Hell yeah.
Kind of like that. And I wanted to give another shout out to another game that doesn't get a lot of light or talk. It's a really deep cut game. Again, you have to be on the Master System to experience this. There was a game called Constellation, Gene.
Constellation?
Constellation. Yeah, Kenseidn, I believe.
Okay.
And Constellation.
Okay, yeah.
Young cog. Young early teen. Bro, this game about a Japanese samurai.
This looks familiar, man.
Bro,
I don't know this game.
Yeah. Bro, let me tell you. This is the first time, Dagan, I ever experienced Japanese horror on any level.
Oh, wow.
My young mind was like, what is going on? What are these demons? What are these deities? It had very foreboding music. It was difficult as hell. There was no save state. There was no continue. I never beat this game. This game scared the hell out of me.
Really?
It was wild. And again, it was almost like a challenging Souls-like game in a way. Right? It was a side scroller.
Yeah.
You know, he had like a sword. He would gain moves as you go on and you find them through the game. Okay. But it also had a little bit of bullet hell in it as far as the boss fights and stuff like that.
Oh, shit.
Very difficult game. And I'm like, who sanctioned this for kids? like this is not what kids. I'm over here playing Hang On and saying Safari Hunt and Space Harrier. Everything is feel good. Get ready, and I buy this game. They buy this game for me. Dagan, I was terrified.
This game looks amazing.
Yeah, it's really good. It's called Say the music.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, difficult, no save state, one life kind of thing, and very challenging bosses. So I actually recently watched a Let's Play of someone. I'm like, oh my God, all the things I never experienced. I probably never got past like the second province in the game because there's like all these different provinces that were taken over by spirits and anything. So yeah, I just wanted to open it up to you guys in reference to, horror, whether you want to go with the horror film or the horror game, and just in general, things that kind of stood out to you that either really kept you. I need that fear. I need something that really had you frozen. I will go with Gene first because I'm curious what gets Gene scared. What was the ones for him? You know what I'm saying? That got you locked in place, whether it be movie or game.
It was The Shining. Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Love that movie.
Yeah, it's not so much. I don't even watch. I like the monster movies, Friday the 13th, Jason, Freddy Krueger, all that good stuff, Halloween. It's entertaining. It's thrilling. But I look at them as action movies, like Alien even, Alien is also a horror movie too.
Sure.
Saw, I don't touch. I don't like torture. Final Destination, that's way too real, so I'm good on that.
Good.
So maybe like I do avoid stuff that I think would actually scare me, like Final Destination would like freak me out. I saw the trailer for the new one, and I saw like how that person died, and I was like, no, I'm good.
Nope.
Yeah, I can't do that either.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, again, I always have to remind people, I am a former crime reporter. I have witnessed real horror. I have seen an old woman just die because a car just ran into the stop sign, but the stop sign stopped the car. But then the stop sign chopped her fucking head in half.
Oh, dude. I can't with that kind of.
So it's like, so I've seen that in person. Like I didn't see the actual accident in person, but I've seen the results of it. Again, I'm from Guam. Like so someone was like, "Oh, where did Gene see someone beat another person with a shotgun?" Right? It's like I am from Guam. Guam is crazy, but also, as a crime reporter, it is a small place. If you don't know. The place is only 34 miles long and 8 miles wide.
Wow.
There are video games that are bigger than Guam. You can drive around the entire island nation in 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes if you're cruising,
Wow.
So whenever I heard there was a murder case happening, I'm there in like 5 minutes, like easy, So that's why it's like I just want to avoid like accident stuff and like really gory. So I like monsters and fantasy, stuff that isn't real,
Sure.
Like, and that way I can enjoy it and also like have my gore and also get my thrills. But it was The Shining when I saw it on TV. I didn't know who Stanley Kubrick was. I didn't know who Stephen King was. I didn't know what I was watching. It was just on, and then I see these two girls in the hallway. And then the blood starts rushing in to flood in, and then the kid is just sitting there frozen, like, and nothing really happens. And I'm just like, that is the most frightening thing. And I actually would believe that because again, on Guam we have a lot of ghost stories. You talk about Sinners. As far as I know from Sinners, is talking a lot about Southern horror.
Yes,
and some of that lore, right?
Yeah,
a little bit like South of Midnight too, right?
Yeah, actually, it's a good precursor. South of Midnight is a good precursor to Sinners.
Yeah, I know. I think it would be pretty cool to watch the movie and then come home and then play some South of Midnight. I agree. That'd be a nice little synergy of
perfect synergy between film and game. Good call out.
So that's why like I've been wanting to play South of Midnight, but I was like, I think I'll wait until I'm in the mood for it. And I think Sinners is going to be definitely the good appetizer. I think.
Yes.
For a nice meaty game. But on Guam, we also have like horror lore too. There is a bridge down south haunted by what's called the White Lady. Just a white woman. That's just a white woman. Just a white woman, but she's white.
It's just a Karen. Like it's just a Karen.
Right?
It's just a Karen. Like just like
It's just a
Just
Karen.
a
regular
Karen.
book. My neighbor.
A ghostly Karen.
Yeah. I have a bunch of boys over here. But then we also have vampire stories too. Something called the Tatamona. Which is a native vampire who protects the island. So if you litter, you can expect a visit from the vampire later at night, and you're going to have a hard time breathing. And what made it believable is that there's a lot of guys I know who would just like shit or piss in the woods, and then they would come home and they would just be like, oh, like that. It's like it's crazy.
Love shit like that.
Yes.
So that's why when I saw The Shining, like I was like, oh, it's like the white lady or the vampires. They're around, but they're not gonna really put hands on you, but they're watching you. They're around. It's scary. There was this old mental institution that got shut down, and it was actually the first place where I decided to smoke weed for some reason. Completely abandoned hospital, but my boys Victor and Ryan were like, dude, let's go to the fucking mental hospital and the haunted mental hospital and smoke weed there. And I was like, okay, cool, why not make it even worse for myself, right? And then sure enough, like a bunch of white dogs came out.
No.
They started chasing us. We had to run into the pickup truck and like drive away from them. It was crazy.
Whoa.
It was the worst experience I've ever had in my life. And it was the first time I smoked weed. It's crazy that I continued to smoke weed right afterwards. Right?
Didn't stop you.
I didn't stop. It didn't stop me at all. I was like, yeah, that was cool, man.
That was cool, bro.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I was so high. I just like made it up or something. Who knows? Like I could be lying for that one, but I honestly don't know. I distinctly remember white dogs chasing, and like I'm in the back of the pickup truck. I'm just like, hurry up!
That's terrifying.
Crazy right there.
But The Shining was really the scary thing. I don't know if I really watched any other horror movies that really kind of haunted me as much. I've always felt like The Shining was the peak for me. And then after that, I just don't watch like a ton of zombie movies or anything like that. Like The Fly, The Thing. Those are all the movies that I really love. But again, those are all about creatures. Things that I'm like not attached to. Like Get Out is a good movie for me because even though that is like very societal and like real, I'm not black.
You ain't had the morbid fear I had.
Yeah. So there's a huge detachment from there. I had white girlfriends, and I've always been awkward. Like I remember I had a white girlfriend, and like she brought me over to her grandma's house for Thanksgiving, and then we like I'm telling you, Cock, like we literally sat around the fireplace and sang songs, and I was like, this is the whitest family I've ever been in.
Wow.
This is the whitest Thanksgiving I've ever been to.
Oh,
it's
that is
crazy.
hilarious.
Grandma was playing the piano. It was awesome. I loved it. And they say white people have no culture. That's culture.
That's culture. That's culture. That's culture.
I'm not even joking. That's culture right there. It really is. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment. But it was interesting.
That's hilarious. I love it.
As far as video games, though, man,
Talk to me.
I've said before, Resident Evil is just straight up my favorite video game series of all time.
So good.
Period. More than Mario, more than Zelda, more than Dark Souls. Resident Evil is more than Yakuza 2. Resident Evil is a series that I play over and over again. Because I don't find it scary. I find it relaxing, it's cool to just go through the motions of, the puzzles and like that, I never really found Resident Evil that scary. Of course, Silent Hill is a different story altogether.
Totally.
I was there for Silent Hill 1, and I almost tapped out of the game when there was a scene in the elementary school. Early spoilers for Silent Hill 1, a game that you should play by now. Actually, no, it's hard to play right now. So because of
is it? Yeah, it's hard to get, right?
It's hard. You can only play it on a PS1 or like on some weird collection or whatever like that.
Wow.
It's not available on modern platforms, and screw Konami for not having it available, right?
Yeah.
People always complain about not having remasters or remakes, and it's like, dude, we actually need more of them, honestly. For a lot of good series.
I agree. Yeah.
Prototype.
Yes.
I love a Prototype remaster. PsyOps, the Mindgate conspiracy. All that good stuff. And Silent Hill is obviously one of them too. Give it the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection treatment, right? But when there was a moment in Silent Hill 1 where Harry is in the school, and then there's just a phone in the middle of the classroom. And then the phone just rings, and then it's your daughter on the other line. And like, at that point in like that early in gaming, I had never experienced anything like that. And I was like, this is so scary. I can't deal with this,
Yes.
It wasn't that bad. And I played the rest of the game and it was fine, right? Silent Hill 2 was creepy. It was the first game that I felt like, oh, this is like The Shining. This is really digging its nails into my brain and really making me jump at shadows and look at things the wrong way, and that's, to me, one of the most beautiful things about I love my favorite video games are the ones that change my perspective on how I look at real life. For example, Tetris is it's been documented that people have the Tetris effect, right? Where you still see the blocks as you're after you finish. Even people who have never played Tetris before can see the blocks like in real life or whatever. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, I started to see the world and architecture as level design, bro.
That's real. That's real.
Right? That's a big
that
one.
awning over there. If gravity wasn't that much of an issue, you could just grind on that and just jump on that thing, jump on that thing. Beautiful thing. GoldenEye for N64. The first game that really made me aware of security cameras.
Oh yeah,
and that's when I started stealing shit.
That was your inspiration
to beat them.
It gave me like a superpower to start stealing things from Kmart, on Guam. I knew where all the cameras were and everything like that. Again, had a real life impact on my life. And then so Silent Hill 2 was that in terms of like shadows and lighting and everything like that. So yeah, Resident Evil really didn't scare me up until Biohazard, Resident Evil 7.
Okay.
When they actually tried to scare you more, they're like, no,
I get that.
We're really going to be a horror franchise now for a little bit, at least for a little bit. And then Village went off the rails again. Crazy. They had one good horror bit in Village, and that was genuinely terrifying as well too. Other than that, though, I'm trying to look at lists of games. I forget so many of them.
What's your favorite Resident Evil game, Gino? You celebrate the entire catalog, but do you have a fave?
Resident Evil 4, the least horror one.
Me too. Oh, the older one, not the remake.
The older one. I definitely prefer the older one over the remake.
Okay.
Because I just think the action is faster, snappier. I like the limited move set because to me that's what makes a game. You figure out the move. It's like Pac-Man in a way. You have to. You're being kind of shepherded through different lanes of danger. Like all the zombies are coming this way, so you got to turn around and run this way. But you're going to be backed up, so you better make sure that you have enough ammo for that. Whereas in the remake, you just have so much power and movement, and it's fun, super empowering. I love it, but I just like the purity of the RE4 regular gameplay.
I got to play the original. RE4 remake is one of my favorite games, but I've never played the original.
Really?
Never played it.
You should play the original at least. It might be tough, because the controls are an issue. For me, it's the game that I played the most in my life. I play it every 3 months. I play every version of it.
Wow, that's a testament.
I had it on the iPhone. I had the iOS version of Resident Evil 4, and I was playing it like this on the touchscreen.
Wow.
It was terrible, but I still wanted to play it.
That's dedication.
And it was also the game that made me stop playing mobile gaming because they delisted it. And I was like, I bought that. Wow. I bought it. And you take it away from me? That's crazy.
Yeah,
holy shit.
Yeah, I went through that before.
And then do you remember Infinity Blade?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was like Epic Games before they really became like huge or whatever. Like that. And that was an Unreal Engine game for iPhone. That game had a lot of microtransactions. I bought so many microtransactions, and they delisted the entire trilogy off iPhone. And it's like, yo, I was stacked. I was so powerful, but I also spent a lot of money on it.
Screwed up.
And you just took that all away. That's crazy.
So crazy.
So,
brutal.
Anyways, that's my rant on mobile gaming, on horror films. But Resident Evil 2, of course, in the remakes, Resident Evil 2 remake was pretty much perfect.
Classic.
Like, that's Resident Evil 2 remake and RE4 are the two games that I replay all the time. I do have a soft spot for RE7 Biohazard, which was so scary because I played it in VR first.
Oh, hell no.
Wow.
That was stupid. That was so stupid. When your girlfriend or wife or whatever starts stabbing you in the face or whatever like that, I'm like, no, I can't.
I couldn't handle that.
I couldn't handle it. So I just took the helmet off and I was like, I'm done. I'm not playing that game. I only played the game for the first time like 2-3 years ago. I just played it as a regular ass video game, and I had a lot of fun. And now I've been replaying it over and over again because it's just so nice and cozy. That Baker house, the mood and again Southern horror.
Southern horror, yes.
There's a lot of horror in the South right now. And again, that reminds me of Guam. More rural neighborhoods. There's a lot more room for speculation and rumor and paranoia. It's really interesting. Other horror games I really enjoyed. Mouthwashing last year, which is actually my game of the year. Over Metaphor.
Oh, was it really for 2024?
Yeah,
he waxed him poetic on it. I remember.
Only 3-hour game, 2.5-hour game.
Wow,
excellent story.
So fast.
Not even that scary, just really, really compelling. Yeah, I don't know. There is one game that scared the hell out of me so much that I couldn't play it.
Let's go.
Fatal Frame 2.
Fatal Frame 2.
Have you played the Fatal Frame games?
I haven't
played it. I've not played a Fatal Frame.
I love the concept though.
Yeah, these are games where if you find a ghost, you have to stare at it through your camera, and you have to be taking pictures of it.
Love it.
As a ghost is like trying to scare the hell out of you, know.
Cool.
And it's like full on Japanese horror, right? Like this is this is obviously like After the Ring and everything, right? And The Ring was terrifying too.
I agree.
Japanese and Korean horror is terrifying.
Yes, I agree.
The East Asians are crazy. I don't know what's going on with our minds right now, but it's wild, But Fatal Frame was one of them, and there was one moment pretty early on in the game where it's a horror game, so you're searching through cabinets and everything like that, right? I open one cabinet and there's a dead ghost baby in there, and I just screamed. I was like, ah! I just threw the controller and I was like, I'm turning off the PS2. I'm not playing this.
It's like, I'm good. Yeah, I respect it.
That and PT.
Oh, PT, man.
PT. Hideo Kojima. I couldn't believe that he was able to make a game that scary. When and it's over 11 years old, and if you haven't watched it by now, at least
you have to watch it.
Yeah, you have to.
But there's a moment where the radio just says, look behind you. I said, look behind you. And then you look behind you and then some shit happens. And it's like, when that happened to me, I threw my controller and I screamed, like a girl. I remember making a high-pitched yell for both times. Fatal Frame 2 and PT. It was Japanese horror,
Yes,
both times.
Yeah.
And so after PT, I was like, I never finished PT. It's still on me. It's still on my PS4 Pro. So that PS4 Pro is valuable now, right? But it still has my save on there that is incomplete. And I could delete the save to start all over again. But it's like I'm just gonna leave it there. That's just what it is too.
Dude, that game never getting past the demo phase might be the biggest tragedy in all of video games.
Yeah,
that wasn't realized until because didn't he develop that with Guillermo del Toro as well? Yep. Right, so it was those are two masters.
Yeah,
and of course they would collaborate again, but but that project being now relegated to certain generations of the console, and you can't get it, and you got to watch it on YouTube if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, there's a PC remake that does it fairly well, but man, there's nothing like playing it when it was new.
Oh hell yeah, I remember the phenomenon of it.
And actually, my buddy Wooly, his buddy Reggie, Wooly is a content creator and Twitch streamer, right? But his buddy Reggie is fairly not really tapped into games, right? He loves games, but he does not pay attention to every single thing, right? He had no idea what PT was.
Oh,
so last Halloween, Wooly had him play through PT. And then he got to the end where it says Silent Hills. And he was like, what? Guillermo del Toro, what?
I forgot all about that.
He was like, oh my God, we were robbed. 11 years later, he realizes how much we've actually lost.
It still hurts.
It still hurts to this day when you realize that could have happened and they just fumbled it or whatever,
Yeah, that was sick.
Yeah, it's sickening, you know. So you get why that became such a meme, like fuck Konami and
Oh yeah.
Jeff Keighley even
Sure.
like dunking on Konami and like no other company ever since, you know,
Yeah, man.
because that just felt raw, you know, and
Oh, such a mess.
when that was fresh, it felt so wrong, you know. It
Yeah.
still feels wrong now, but like when it was fresh, it was like, man, this is an injustice, you know.
A lot of angst.
But look at what came out of it. KP. Now we got Death Stranding.
Death Stranding,
Mhm.
yeah.
We got the
Death
second
Stranding.
game coming out. It's like we got a lot of, you know, some the phoenix rose from the ashes,
Yeah.
which is good.
No, I get it. So you satiated on that one, Gene?
Yeah, that's pretty
All
much
right.
it, though.
No doubt.
I could talk about The Last of Us again, but I know our audience is sick of
There you go. I mean, that's timely.
you know, nonstop talk about The Last of Us. You know, there was a complaint in Sacred Simples about you know, Colin keeps talking about The Last of Us,
Enough's
and then there's
enough.
The Last of Us episode, and then Gene talks about Last of Us on Nintendo podcast.
The comments is funny, man. I get you. No, that's a good one. Good one. Yeah, I definitely like what you said in reference to that. And I love what you said in reference to when you play a game, how it affects the way you look at the real world. And that's when you know the game really has an impact. That actually happened to me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I remember looking at it like, yeah, like this looks like one of the open world games I was playing. And then you put yourself, whatever game it was, that's when you know the game really hits different. So salute to you on that.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta go to Dave, man. I'm curious, man. Horror, man. You know, things that have really impacted you, whether it's film, game, things that maybe made you completely uncomfortable, or had you frozen. what had Dagan frozen? I need to know these things.
I love horror, but I'm such a notorious coward. But I challenge myself. I've been doing this since I was a kid. When Gene started talking about The Shining, that's sort of one of my favorite movies of all time. But if I saw that when I was a kid, before I was really ready, I don't know that I was ever ready, but that would have ruined me, that movie. Because things like Poltergeist in the early to mid 80s were already getting under my skin. I can't even imagine if I saw The Shining, because things just get in my head. You know what I mean? Like for instance, this just happened 28 years later, the trailer, right? There might be 2 trailers deep now.
Yeah.
I think just the trailer for that film is so horrifying that when I go out and walk the dog at night, like, what if these crazy zombie people just come running top speed around that? You know, like there's things you could plant the idea, it's going to stay there. You know, I'm such a baby, but I love it at the same time. So I have a really strange relationship with horror because I'm really not ready for it. Plus, I'm very squeamish when it comes to gore, which doesn't help. But I love horror. I mean, for games, here's the thing, and I've said this before, and everybody was like, what? And they challenged me because I don't know games like you guys, like Colin. Like, my catalog I'm not up to snuff with what I've played. But I still say to this day, yeah, we talk about, you know, Silent Hill and Resident Evil and PT, of course, and the Fatal Frame games. I love the concepts, even though I never played. Alan Wake, Dead Space, The Last of Us games, but all amazing. I haven't finished Alan Wake 2 yet because my PC crapped out, but everything else, I stay on top of it. I really enjoy horror games, but the thing is, now, then, I just, for some reason, get the sense that we're just scratching the surface with horror games. Like, where is the horror game that's really going to scare the living shit out of us? Like, I just think that medium, you could make something so much scarier than a film or a TV show because you're interacting with it. You have to be in it, right? You're not just a spectator. So by being a player, I just think there's like, where is the horror game? Well, now, last time I said this, there were 3 games that were mentioned. Like, Dig, you have to play The Evil Within. Shout out Shinji Mikami. I never played it.
Okay.
You have to play Visage or Visage, which I had never heard of and still haven't played. And then there was another one that a couple of people mentioned to me that's only a few years old, maybe 2022, called The Mortuary Assistant, where you play like an assistant mortician.
I demoed that game.
How was that?
That was a wild game.
Was it?
Yeah, I was like, who came up with this? Yeah, the developer was super passionate. It was like maybe a PAX East, maybe a couple years ago. And I remember, I'm like, because I looked at the press kit for the trailer for that promotion before I made an appointment.
Okay.
I was like, this is interesting. Yeah.
The concept is crazy.
Yes.
You got to say, like, it's it's geared to be terrifying just from what you're doing.
Just from what you're doing, yeah. Just the job itself. Then they want to throw an extra layer on top of it. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
So, but I just think we're still like in the Wild West phases with like, I think video game horror has so much potential. I think horror in general as a genre has a lot of potential, not just for creativity, but for really deep, frightening stuff. You know, there's just something in me that just, I feel like the potential's still there and it hasn't been met yet. You know, I enjoy all the stuff, but like, and you know, I feel like I also have a very low bar for being scared. So if it's not scaring the shit out of me, how scary is it? You know what I mean? So I'm always kind of looking at it through that lens as well. With movies, I mean, you could go on and on with horror movies. I would just give it to this. I'll give you a movie that I have seen that I think is a great horror film, and I'll give you one that I just cannot bring myself to watch, but I've heard has a reputation of being like, don't even watch this. Mm-hmm. In fact, I feel bad for even saying this movie because I think a lot of people don't know about it. So the first movie that I have seen that I think is probably the closest a horror film has gotten to The Shining in terms of the concept, the acting, the cinematography, just an overall experience is Ari Aster's Hereditary from 2018, 2017. It was his debut feature film. I think he's done a few movies since. He's working on a fourth one now. That movie is like a much, much scarier Rosemary's Baby. Even that, and that it deals with the supernatural and the occult. So there's the demonic aspect of it, but it's really at its core just a film about a psychological horror film about a family, and you know, a family unraveling due to trauma. And so it gets under your skin in two ways. You know, and he's a master filmmaker in terms of craft, but the content just operates on levels that just get under your skin in a myriad of ways, multiple ways, which is very rare, especially for a young filmmaker. I mean, he's still young, but that was his first film. And, you know, people were already comparing it in its first week to like, this is scarier than The Exorcist. And I think in a lot of ways it is. Really a frightening film, a very entertaining film, but a very disturbing film. And then the one I haven't seen. Now, I'll tell you what put this movie on my radar. Bill Hader, actor, director, Barry. Think of all the comedic stuff he's done, Saturday Night Live. Brilliant guy. He's a big movie buff, like a real cinephile. And he, in an interview, I heard him talk about a movie that he actually walked out of. And he doesn't seem like a squeamish guy. He likes modern films. He's a bit of a film historian. So he's seen everything, you know, not just, you know, American films. We're talking about globally over the years. He's a real like aficionado of movies. And he was like, yeah, there's this one movie that I walked out of and it's called Irreversible. I think it's from 2002. So this is a movie that's almost 25 years old. I used to think he was French, but I don't think he is. I think he's an Argentinian director called Gaspar Noé. And supposedly this guy's movies, I haven't seen any of them, but supposedly they're unhinged. Like he actually admits to like being like on drugs when he makes his movies. Very, very interesting, avant-garde filmmaker, doesn't pull punches. But I'm not even going to say anything about Irreversible, except that it stars Monica Bellucci, which a lot of people would know. And I think she did this film right before she did the Matrix sequels. So very interesting movie. And I think the movie was shot in order, but the movie kind of tells you a story backwards. And I'm not going to even ruin it. I'm not even going to say too much. And it's definitely not the type of movie I could watch just in what it deals with and what it's, what it's telling you a story about.
Vincent Castle is in that. Okay.
Yeah, he's in it. And Monica Bellucci. And I think they were together at the time that they were filming this movie.
From Tekken 8 is in it.
In fact, he might have produced it as well, Cog. Okay. Vincent Cassell, which, you know, a lot of people would know him from, you know, he was in Black Swan. He was in one of the, at least one, what is he in, Ocean's 12, maybe? He played like the opposing thief.
I believe so.
Right, in Ocean's 12. So he's a big, you know, French actor turned American movie star type guy. But that movie, Irreversible, is a movie that just had its reputation precedes it. There's knowing the little that I know, there's just no way I'm sitting through that movie. It's like if Bill Hader can't handle it, this guy's seen everything. This guy talks about like sitting through multiple viewings of Sallow and stuff like that. Like I can't watch these movies. So that Irreversible is the one I would say, if you want to challenge yourself, that sounds like a real challenge to me.
All right.
Yeah. So that's one for me. But I love this whole thing being brought on by this Sinners conversation, which again, I don't know too much about it. Gene wants to go in unspoiled. You know what I love about it though? It came on so quick. It got like this head of steam out of nowhere. In fact, you talking about it was like, oh yeah. Besides seeing the trailer in passing, something about the setting and the time period is very inventive. Just in the imagery and the atmosphere that it creates, just from the trailer. It's like, oh, this is interesting.
Yes.
And then Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler, like, I'm a huge Creed fan, especially the first. I like the first two films, but the first Creed movie is special. And then a lot of people are like, that's my favorite Rocky movie. I'm like, that means a lot.
That's a lot.
Because those movies the first 3 or 4 Rocky movies are amazing. But Creed, has me rooting for Coogler, has me rooting for Michael B. Jordan. And like we were saying before we started rolling today, a lot of people are like, I don't know what it is about this film, but there's Oscar buzz around Michael B. Jordan. That's not, I don't know if they're necessarily saying for this role, but they're seeing something in him now. There's like, eventually this guy's cruising for an Oscar, almost taking a Denzel
trajectory.
All of a sudden, everybody's like, the range, the charisma.
Yes.
Right. Something about it.
Yeah. I would definitely say, without spoiling, after watching Sinners, at minimum, I looked at him different now. I'm like, okay, you always were good. There's no question the talent was there.
100%.
Yeah, now I have to put you in that upper echelon. You know what I'm saying? Like, we getting into that, like I said, that Denzel type energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you said in reference to your choices and as far as horror and games and films and stuff like that. Just to add on before we wrap up, was just provided you're satiated.
Oh, sure, yeah, of course, yeah.
That was great. Yeah, I think we all agree that we're not fans of like the super squeamish, that type of horror, that kind of thing. And I just got 2 honorable mentions before I close it. For me was young ones that I'm embarrassed about that I remember now as you were talking, Dagan. Hitchcock, The Birds. That messed me up as a kid. My mom showed me that damn movie. And I looked at pigeons real different after that, man. Damn pigeons. I was like, nah, man. Like, I don't know how they did that movie. I need to watch like the making of The Bird. Because I was like, bro, they really had me out here scared of birds really swarming and terrifying you. I was like, this was a wild concept. So that right there. And the goofy one, G, don't laugh. I should be ashamed of myself. But mind you, my excuse is I was very young. There was a stupid movie. It wasn't even a horror movie like that. Remember Alligator?
Oh yeah.
No, I don't remember.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in the sewers.
Yes.
Bro, it was. Bro, that alligator was terrorizing things in the city.
I forgot all about that movie.
Yeah, but it was a goofy movie, bro. As a kid, I was horrified of alligators, crocodiles, all that stuff. And just sewers in general.
Yeah.
Like, yo, what's really down there? They're not telling the truth.
Oh, yeah. Sewers scared the hell out of me, for sure.
Yo, sewers?
Yeah.
Bro, I remember I used to be like amazed when I used to see construction workers going down there. They're not telling the whole truth. There's all type of creatures and stuff they hiding from us.
Yeah, it wasn't until Ninja Turtles that and this might be go to my next topic, but it wasn't until Ninja Turtles that were like I started to think, oh, sewers is just a place.
Yes.
It's a hangout.
It's a hangout. It's cool. It's fun.
We're getting pizza.
Hideaway. You can have a pool room down there, an arcade.
Bro, that's what Master Splinter the crew is. Okay, you're right. It made it a fun thing. You're absolutely right. As a kid, that changed my perspective on how I looked at it.
Oh, that's a funny one, dude. I want to see what year that came out because I feel
like Alligator's like one of them 80s joints.
Definitely. Had to be early. It capitalized on the whole Jaws thing.
Yes. And it's like this huge, it was a phenomenon for a little bit.
It was. It was really popular. Like it was on TV a lot.
Yes.
You know, they probably
TV.
cut it up and had edited a bunch of things out. 1980.
80. Yeah.
Jaws came out in
Massive
the 70s,
alligator.
right? So-
And, you know, it would do the Jaws things. Like the kid would jump in the pool, even though it was an above ground pool and it
75.
didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You know, then you would just see the plume of blood coming up.
Coming.
You know, the little kid obviously got eaten, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, terrifying. And I think there might be a thing in there.
Mhm.
I think it was alligator. Remind me, Cog.
Mm-hmm.
Where the alligator was coming up, you know, hence the sewers, through the toilet.
Yeah, doing
So
crazy.
toilets was scary for a while.
Yes. Yeah. Anything it could access, it got you. Bro, alligator had me as a kid, man.
It makes sense. It's
So
like
bringing back on
birds.
Guam, snakes would actually legit like crawl through the toilets.
That's
so,
a thing,
that was
right?
actually scary. Like I was worried that I was gonna get my balls bitten off by a snake for a while. So I would always be like staring down in there, like, you know, just to make sure that there's no snakes coming out on my goddamn toilet.
It never happened to you?
It never happened. No.
Okay.
That's
You
right.
do hear that. And with rats, supposedly, it could also happen.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
like
rats could get-
vermin, snakes,
man.
all that.
That's ugly.
Yeah. Jaws never scared me though, because, you know, again, I grew up in Guam and Hawaii, right? And so I knew that shark attacks are just rare, you know.
Super rare.
Which is funny because I've also covered shark attacks. Like I've literally seen a dude like with his hand like his arm like bit off and everything. Like that.
Oh,
That was crazy.
dude.
But it was like the one time though where it was a legit shark attack and he got fucked up.
Ooh. So scary, dude.
So scary.
And then there's another famous surfer. I'm forgetting her name, but she got her arm chopped off by a shark.
Oh, the girl. She was like a pretty young girl at the time.
Yeah.
Still surfing.
Yeah, still surfing. There's
Yeah.
a whole movie about her too.
What?
Yeah, there's
Pro.
a whole
She's a
movie about her
pro.
getting her arm chopped up by a shark. So
Bro, I can't even
One of the bravest people I've ever heard about.
yeah, she's cute too. You know.
She's adorable.
Yeah.
And she's like a real advocate for like not being afraid of sharks.
Mhm.
Wow.
She's an incredible human being. Yeah, I forget her name.
I forget her name. Yeah,
Research it.
Salute. Now, when I am satiated, appreciate y'all. I'm a horror.
Bethany Hamilton. There you go.
Yes, we were just talking about her because some guy at a surf contest. He's Australian, but the surf contest might have been somewhere else.
Okay.
Don't quote me. But yeah, he was accosted by a shark during the competition, so they have footage of it. I think he was okay, but the shark was basically right around him wherever he was breaking that barrel, and I don't know if he fell off his board. I think it worked out, but you know it happens. You know, especially when you're in places like Australia or Hawaii.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and also there's the old myth about the hang loose shaka symbol. The story goes is that there was a guy who got his 3 fingers bitten off by a shark. So he was a popular guy. Everyone loved him, right? So every time he would say hi, it would just be like this. So everybody to make him feel better, everyone would just go like this right back to him. And that's
the deep lore on that.
That's so cool.
like, yeah, what's up, And then so it just became a thing,
It just became. That's dope. That's interesting.
Oh, I love it. Dude.
Hawaii lore is awesome, man. There's a lot of cool stuff. Like the slide guitar that's playing in blues. That's from Hawaii. That's from Hawaii because the cowboys that we had Hawaiian cowboys, and then a lot of the country singers would go to Hawaii, or the Hawaiians would go to the States, and they'll be like, oh yeah, check out this guitar trick that we got, and they'll use a beer bottle, and then they're like, oh, no kidding, and then now we got the slide guitar blues sound,
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Cog, have you ever been to the islands?
I've not been to Hawaii.
Me either.
I've not been, man. That's on the bucket list. I got to get Japan done this year, but Hawaii and all that is on the bucket list, man. I have to get that done.
Me too. Yeah, I really want to go. I even want to see places like Honolulu. I'm just so curious about it.
Especially after playing Infinite Wealth. I loved it. I was like, man, I want to go there.
Same place. Same place.
And you said that, G. We were talking. You were like, bro, this is so Hawaii. I'm like, okay. I was
same thing.
The
It's just as accurate as they made Kamurocho and Kabukicho and everything. Same thing.
Oh yeah, I'm hitting that up immediately.
Oh, that's so cool to know that.
I'm doing my Yakuza tour.
And then the Sega community manager, he just had a vacation in Hawaii, and he was like, "Oh my god, this is just a game." And I was like, "Yeah, I know, dude." Like they went crazy,
Yes, I see people with pictures. I'm like, wow. With RGG went crazy with this. With
RGG went crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like that's rare.
Yeah. I wouldn't want RGG to make a horror game. That's for sure. It would just be too real. I'm like,
too real.
I'm good.
Maybe that's what I'm asking for.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that'll be the antidote.
I appreciate your share, but I am satiated on the horror.
Nice. I gotta go watch Alligator now. It's
Yes.
been a while. We used to torture ourselves with that one as kids. I do remember that.
Kind of want to watch the birds again because it's been a while too.
And
also,
the
Hitchcock is
Hitchcock.
huge too. I love Hitchcock.
Huge.
Vertigo for a longest time, and it still might be. Like I think I used to consider it like the greatest movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And that's barely a horror movie. It's just a thriller about some dude and his wife, and it was creepy. It's weird, but it's beautiful. Hitchcock is a master.
Oh man.
They even reference him in the show Severance.
Yeah.
The Severance. The episode before the finale. It was called The After Hours, and they're referencing Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone episode. So influential, and Psycho, of course, too.
Of course,
yeah. I watched Psycho in film school, and I was like, no, I see why this was fucking gas back in the day, man. This is crazy.
What? Hitchcock was that dude for sure.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah,
I mean, film school, film class. I didn't go to film school, so just before people think that I'm just lying, I just like, oh, Gene went to film school. I'm like, no, I took film classes, but
his films are a film school.
They are. You do go to school.
You don't even need it. Just watch Hitchcock. He was good at everything, but that seed of just making you afraid of the most inevitable things we have to deal with. We have to go outside. No matter where you live, you have to be afraid of birds. They're everywhere.
Yes.
Showers. Now you're afraid of taking a shower. Just the little seed of an idea.
Yep.
Beyond
making normal things uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Right? And you look at things differently as a result. That's when you know the impact. Kind of like add on to what you were saying.
Beyond the camera techniques, beyond the storyboarding and all of his brilliance and the craft, just his ideas, people still think of Psycho when they take showers.
Oh yeah.
It's insane.
That's true.
I love Hitchcock.
Right. Yeah.
I love bringing up Hitchcock. I'm glad you guys did that.
Nice.
Great topic. Gene, I want to move over to yours. I think this one's oddly adjacent. I feel like we could roll right into this one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I thought you were going to lead in. But my topic, this was a topic that we were going to have with Manny and Carl last month.
Yes.
But we just ran way too long. Cartoon shows. Favorite cartoons. And this is a good group because we are all around the same age of the era. And, Dagan, you're an animator. You are cartoons are your life, right?
They really are.
But also, I just grew up with so many cartoons. Like I can't I just looked up 80s cartoons just to see which ones I talked about. And I'm going down this list, and it's like, dude, I watched like every single one, dude. How did I watch so much content back in the day in TV when it was not on demand? I guess when you were a kid, you really do have all that time to just like sit around. Dude, I can't even imagine being a kid right now with TikTok and YouTube.
Oh, bro.
I can't even imagine what that does to your brain right now. All the Gen Z kids that are growing like. Actually, you know what? I did see that shit because I went to watch a Minecraft movie, and I saw kids throw food on the floor and then eat the food on the floor.
Oh no.
So it's like like boomers worried about lead poisoning and everything like that, and I think Gen Z and everything there are just going to be just poisoned, in general. I have no idea. But like when I'm looking down this list, on Wikipedia, Tom and Jerry, of course I watched that. Super Friends, I watched that. Dude, I watched the Lone Ranger cartoon.
The Lone Ranger. I don't think I've ever seen that.
The Lone Ranger.
That shit only had 2 seasons, and it aired when the year I was born. And I still watched it,
Interesting. I gotta
Heathcliff. I watch.
Oh,
Heathcliff.
Big one.
My orange cat right here too. I always call him my Heathcliff. He's all around and everything. Scooby Doo, Flintstones, Spider-Man and his amazing friends, Zorro somehow. Dude, I even watched the Mork and Mindy cartoon.
I remember that.
I remember that.
But really, my favorite cartoons at the time were He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Woo! That's on my list.
That was on
my list.
When I saw Conan, I was like, "Oh, it's a He-Man ripoff,"
Oh, that's funny.
But because He-Man was just my first. Like you think that like Resident Evil is your first exposure to zombies, right? It's actually Dawn of the Dead or Night of the Living Dead or whatever.
Oh,
right?
sure. Yeah.
And it's like, no, but He-Man was my touch point into like barbarian warrior stories and everything like that. And, I thought the women were hot, the sorceress.
Shout out to She-Ra and them.
The sorceress, she got that little short like wing outfit going on. I was like, man, that's what I knew, that I was attracted to women with power.
That's funny.
With power, with dominion over people. I love that, I would still bang Hillary Clinton today. No problem. Just to say that, just to come back on the podcast and then be my topic, my one night stand with Hillary Clinton. I would do that just for the podcast, just for the bit.
I feel like you have a shot.
Maybe, yeah.
I think you have a shot.
No, might get killed afterwards. Who knows? But like, it would still be a good bit, even if I got killed. Here's my Heathcliff.
It's only fair though. If Bill could, fuck around, then Hillary should have her chance to have a little fun as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
I can be her young intern. Why not? But He-Man was my shit. Like that was really my first like fantasy like story with swords and villains. Skeletor, of course, is a classic.
Underrated villain.
Yeah, Mad at Arms.
Mad at Arms.
I love the toys. I still have. Do I still have?
Got the He-Man toys?
So you collected the toys, Gene, as well.
Yeah, bro. Right here. I keep it right in my right here.
Oh wow! Remember with the chest when you hit it, and it had the thing
with the damaged chest plate, bro. I'm holding up a He-Man figure from the '80s. This is one of my favorite figures when I was a kid.
Classic.
That was such a cool gimmick.
Yes,
I love it.
Yeah, and it still works. It still locks in place, and you hit it, and then bam, There was a battle damage. So this is battle damage He-Man, and I got.
That was Mattel, right?
Mattel, I believe.
You got Skeletor
on the building.
New design too, the new design or whatever.
Iconic, almost as iconic as Darth Vader.
I think those are the only two figures I have left. My mom sold a Towers of Eternia set, which is like massive money.
That hurts.
I think she just threw it away, and then when I found out it was like worth like a couple $1,000s, I'm like, damn.
They just didn't know.
But I feel like I wouldn't sell it though. I would want it, because it's such a dope set, Castle Grayskull, I had that shit
that
too.
was one of the most
sets were always hard.
Yeah. So like G.I. Joe is like Colin's thing, and I love G.I. Joe. I love G.I. Joe so much. The G.I. Joe movie was my jam. And I played and I probably played G.I. Joe toys a lot more than He-Man too, because my favorite thing about G.I. Joe toys, they were so posable. You can just really tell a story by moving their wrists and their legs. You can form them into little kung fu shapes and everything. That's why when they made Street Fighter 2 figures, Hasbro or Mattel, I was like, of course they need to make Street Fighter 2 figures, because those are the only ones that are posable. Right. He-Man, you saw He-Man, he just move his arms up and down and that's it, But G.I. Joe toys were so great,
Yes.
So I think I really like the toys more than the show itself.
Got you.
I could dig that.
And then what else? God, there was another show called Mask that I really loved.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I barely remember anything about that, but I love that show for some reason. Like I saw it at the lunch pail,
Yes.
Do you really?
Yeah, I still have the lunch pail. It's where I keep like my passports and my birth certificate, everything like that.
It's they're bringing it back. It's coming back. Hasbro's
coming back
working on the toys. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they're finally bringing it back.
You did mention this day. You was collecting, right? Haven't you? Aren't you like the Mask guy?
Mask was the last thing I got into. Like after it was too late. Like Mask came out. I gave up toy collecting. Mask came out that summer. It was the summer between 5th and 6th grade, and I was like, "Oh fuck this! I'm collecting toys." I had to have them. Yeah, Mobile Armored Strike Command. Right?
Strike Command. Yes.
I loved Mask.
I remember Mask.
That was my last hurrah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still have it.
Thundercats is another huge one.
Oh, I love
Thundercats.
Another one on the list. Chitara. Come on, man. Chitara.
Yeah, bro.
What a babe.
Yeah.
I'm like speechless. Like my lips are trembling just thinking about it.
Shout out to Chitara.
Yeah,
her little bit in the intro where she does the
flip. Everybody analyzing that flip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you had, Dagan.
Yeah, there you go.
Young Dagan, I know what you was focused.
They do the like anime crotch zoom in during the flip, don't they?
Oh yeah. The animator knew what he was doing.
I gotta see that again now. Yeah. I mean, her outfit was crazy though. You know, like
yeah.
You know,
they were pushing it with
magic. Feel the roar.
Yeah. I mean, also Lionel looked crazy too. Like he's got the little booty shorts on and everything.
Something for the girls.
Yeah. And he's got that like eye makeup on and everything.
Yeah, the eye makeup thing, the hyper-sexualization.
That was wild, you know? But I mean, he's supposed to look like a cat or whatever, right? So, speaking of degeneracy, I was also a huge fan of My Little Pony.
Wow. Really?
It's the same brand, right? Mattel, Hasbro, all of that stuff, right? So like I didn't, this is how I know that gender is just a construct. You know, I didn't think of it as a girl's thing. I was just like, oh, dope, unicorns, you know, fantasy. I love that, you know.
This is 80s. You're not talking about
80s, yeah. No, okay. I actually love the new shit too. So unfortunately, I might fall under bronies, you know. Because I did love the new shit too.
But you were pre-brony. You were like
I was pre-brony. I was proto-brony, you know. Prony, if you will. That sounds so bad. I was a proto-brony, you know. But I love the original one, the My Little Pony movie about the smoos or whatever like that. You have to fight the ooze and save the environment. God. You remember Dagan? Come on.
I do. I had two sisters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was like Fern Gully before Fern Gully was the thing, you know, because it was about saving the environment and all these crazy creatures trying to do that, you know.
I still can't see a real pony without why doesn't the farmer put something on its haunches, like a little symbol? Like every pony should have every actual pony should have a little cutie mark. You know what I mean? It's a wasted opportunity not to do that. Every time I see a field of ponies, I'm like, come on, man. But that one needs a shamrock. That one needs a heart. That one needs a skeleton because it's the goth one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, show a little personality. You know. I also thought about this topic because I watched Severance, and there's a episode where one of the kids is watching Danger Mouse. Do you know Danger Mouse, Dagan?
Of course.
Wow.
Yes. It's one of my favorite things.
Yes, man. Penfold. You know.
Penfold.
Yeah. Danger Mouse was my jam, man. If I have a first memory in my life, it's probably watching Danger Mouse.
Really?
You know? Yeah. And that's the weird thing is that like Nickelodeon was like such a great like resource for like United Kingdom cartoons from Australia, like the fucking koala bears and everything.
They found all the cool shit and brought it over before they started making stuff.
Adventures of David the Gnome.
Loved it. That was Colin's favorite, Gene.
Really? Are you serious? He liked David the Gnome?
He was like all about David the Gnome. Because that was Tom Bosley doing the voice, right? The dad from Happy Days did the voice for David, right? Tom Bosley.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he was the voice of, that was Colin's shit in preschool. Like, he was serious about David the Gnome.
I love this. I love the deep lore.
That's funny. That's awesome. Inspector Gadget, of course, too. That was crazy. And so, I mean, that's the crazy thing about cartoons is that like they are really your first exposure to like so many different parts of the world, you know? I'm from Guam, so there are no Jewish people on Guam, you know?
Really?
There was one Jew and he was my boss. He was my dad's boss, you know?
Okay.
That's about it. So he was the only exposure I had to the culture at all. Dude, there's barely any black people on Guam, you know? The first black person I met she was in the military and we dated for a bit, you know? Okay. She wasn't in the military, but her dad was in the military and, you know, we were both in high school. So that was like my first exposure to black people, like a young, cool girl, hot girl. And then her dad, who was a Navy SEAL, scared the shit out of me.
Oh shit! Yeah, you had to behave.
Yeah, dude. I was in her room and like she was trying stuff, and I was like, I'm good. I don't want to. I'm trying to make it through this life. You know, he's right out there. He warned me. You know, he warned me.
Warning the pre-show.
You know, before we went in, and then we watched some horror movie. Actually, speaking of horror movies, you know. But it was like kind of sexy or whatever. And then, but like, it's like, sure. I don't, but again, I didn't really know any Jewish people. So my deep exposure to Jewish culture was Rugrats, you know?
Oh, right.
Rugrats is all Jewish kids, you know?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And they started celebrating Jewish holidays and everything like that. So like when I finally moved here to DC, where there are a ton of Jewish people, I told my coworkers, I was like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, but my exposure to Jewish culture has been Rugrats. And they're like, No, that's good though. Like, no. That's a really good introduction to our culture. Actually, I was like, no shit, And they're like, it's probably why you know so much about the menorah and the Passover and all this stuff because the Rugrats just talk about all that stuff. So yeah, it's just like Black culture. Also the Cosby and the Cosby cartoons.
Oh right.
Unfortunately,
Yes.
but he was all over culture.
Yeah.
Was that Fat Albert and all that?
Fat Albert
Yeah.
was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
I think the last cartoon I want to mention is kind of like a mix of live. I want to know if anyone out there knows this one. Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that one?
Remember the toys?
Yes,
Yeah,
I love the toys because I was thinking about G.I. Joe toys. Those toys were also posable, and I love the bad guys. There was like a robot guy with wings. I'm forgetting his name. But I loved fighting him with the G.I. Joes. So I was like mixing and matching, like cross media, like I was having my own, Marvel versus DC moments or whatever like that, like He-Man, like Skeletor was just like a big boss because he's just that much buffer and bigger, like he's like Arkham Joker versus like the G.I. Joe guys or whatever like that, But Captain Power. Yeah, but Captain Power and the Soldier of the Future like mix like live action and cartoons.
Yeah.
And the cool thing though is that the cartoons were interactive shoot 'em up games.
Yeah.
Right? So every time like the cartoons will be firing at the screen, they'll be flashing like pink and white like lights, and then you have to use the toys to fire at the screen, and then the toy would be keeping track of it or whatever like that.
Wow.
It was crazy. And then the toy would say, "Good job, soldier," or whatever like that. It was so interactive.
I never got to do it. I was too old already.
Dude, you can still find the cartoons on YouTube, and I just like shed a tear. I'm just
That's
like,
so
man,
cool.
This was such a good time. Like, dude, I had so much fun playing with the toys. Like, I liked that way better than Duck Hunt, because even though it was like way less interactive, I still felt like really immersed in it, and I would watch the videotape over and over and over.
That's right. They came with the videotapes.
Yeah, it was just all videotapes. So it's like I really felt like it was breaking the fourth wall.
So cool.
It was the first time I really felt like engaged with like digital media, which was interesting.
The spaceships are really cool designs too. Like these are really neat.
Dude, yeah.
I'm just
like,
looking at them.
Yeah, soldiers. Yeah, look, he's on the bike. This shit looks like Halo Reach or some shit. Like this shit looks better than Marathon.
This is good shit.
This shit looks more look more gas than Marathon, man. I swear. Look at the helmets and everything. Go look at the spaceships. They look cooler than TIE fighters. Not as cool as X-wings. X-wings are the go, but
yeah, they still have the edge.
Yeah, but then like the way they're arced or whatever like that, they're like a mixture of like the Batwing and X-wings. It's super cool.
Yeah, it kind of does. You're right. Yeah, it's like a proper mashup.
Yeah,
and still in the 80s, 87. So you got the girls with the high hair. Like it's great. Like it's so good.
Yeah. So yeah, that's I don't know, just talking, just some fun talk about some cool cartoons, whatever. And so let's go to Dagan. Well, actually, no, let's go to Cog first because Dagan, I'm really interested to hear why he started anime in the first place. But Cog, let's, you have a lot of you and I share a lot of the same lists, so let's go.
Yeah, bro, we got a lot of crossover. I think you nailed it. For me, a lot of what makes a great cartoon or resonate for me is you got to have a couple of things. You got to have an iconic theme song. And when that thing starts up, I know it's about to happen, right? Something that gets you going. Obviously, I think of like, Transformers and the initial hearing that, what it meets the eye, the beat and all that stuff.
So good.
It's just, it takes you to a place because as a kid, then you anticipate when that comes on, you're ready to go. So I think you gotta have an iconic theme music. I think you nailed it, Gene. Toys, character design, and then character design that is cool that then also translates to good toys. Because if you got that synergy, you got the kids hooked. Because you know what I'm saying? Now I was like, Ma, you got to take me, where Toys R Us. I need that because I've been watching that, and that from the era of the Saturday morning cartoon or after school cartoon kind of thing. So obviously the two major ones, obviously with Transformers probably being my number one love. I was just amazed, just robots having feelings and emotion, and then high vocabulary stuff. I just remember like Megatron, you Starscream, you fool!
Yeah,
you've decided, like seeing villains have drama with themselves.
Right?
That was a concept that I was like, yo, this guy, Starscream, always trying to betray it. I am the new Decepticon leader. And I'm like, what is with this guy? Like, they would have so much hilarious infighting. I was mesmerized by the Decepticons. Like, don't get me wrong. Optimus Prime was the hero, but I tuned in to see what new drama was going to happen. And then obviously, Dagan knows my infatuation for combiners. And I said, seeing
Constructicons.
When I saw Devastator for the first time,
so cool.
I was like, what is happening? It blew my 6 beings merged into this one super being. And at the time, you could tell, Gene, everything was, now that I look back with an older eye and I watch G1 all the way, everybody's debut is to debut to set up the new toy. And at that time, they're almost invincible.
So smart. Right.
Right? The Stunticons come out, now they can't be beat. They got invincible. But then the new bot comes out, all of a sudden, all the features and the invulnerability is gone from your old, because you could tell they're all about pushing the new toy line. And that's what got them in trouble with the movie. Because in their minds, they're like, okay, the kids have had Optimus for years. That's the 85 line. Here's the new joint. We got Hot Rod. And kids were like, no, you're not doing that to us. So that's when they didn't realize what they had. But shout out to also G.I. Joe with the movie and Transformers with the movie having that level of success. Yeah, G.I. Joe, I love it. Anything with ninjas in it, I was there. The Storm Shadows, the Snake Eyes, the Quick Kicks, the Jinxes, And then shout out to G.I. Joe for also having the, what was it? Not the more you know, but knowing's half the battle.
Oh, sure.
And the little lesson, and it would be ridiculous situations. Johnny, you shouldn't take that at the store. I don't know. And then here comes Lifeline. I always have that funny, we got to teach you something.
I love it.
But
the PSAs. The
PSAs, right? But shout out to them for attempting to do something for kids.
So
at the end of the day, you gotta love it. Gene, you nailed it. As far as He-Man, shout out to Skeletor really being one of the most hilarious villains.
Yeah. So good
ever. Yeah. The voice, He-Man, you should. It's just like, bro, he was nefarious. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he was poetic. Like, Skeletor was really a funny character. This big buff dude with this very poetic-like voice. He does not match his body at all.
Right? Yeah, no.
Like, when you really think about what Skeletor is, he's ridiculous, man. Why is his body blue, bro?
Bro, if you want the best laughs ever, there's a guy, UK content creator. Just put in Skeletor debuts the Nintendo Switch 2. You will pee yourself. He has a skit of Skeletor introducing products and games. Please, just Google that.
That's a great idea.
For your own enjoyment. Thank me later. You will die. You want to watch He-Man Skeletor from now on because you realize how amazing Skeletor is.
Love it.
Another one. Now, this is a very deep cut because I was really very young, and this is probably the first cartoon I saw. It was Battle of the Planets.
Oh,
and I had to learn later it was actually Gatchaman that they took from Japan.
Right. And
it was just something cool about the science space ninja team. And then they all had these cool suits. They looked like birds. But the dope thing was each one had an individual vehicle. And I love the thing called the God Phoenix. The way the ship design, remember the ship design? Of
course, yeah.
It was blue with the red. It was, I love that idea of a starship looking like that.
Yeah.
And then when they're in trouble, they go into fiery Phoenix mode. And shout out to Battle being the first cartoon to kind of have a trans character.
Yeah,
boss.
He was.
What was it?
He was totally androgynous.
Yeah, androgynous. Yeah, you didn't know. I was like, is this a woman? I didn't know what that was going on, but you didn't even think about it. You just knew something was different because of the lipstick of this boss. You know what I'm saying? I think they unmasked it one time, kind of thing. All right, I got a couple more on the list.
That's classic.
You nailed it, G. Thundercats, bro.
Oh, man.
Again, theme song. Feel the magic. Feel the roll. Thundercats are loose. Greatest episode.
I've never sung that song in like 2 decades, but I'm like, da-da. You know exactly. It's in your heart.
It's in your soul. If you got a good theme song, you know what I'm saying? It's going to hit it. So I would say that one of my greatest
Pokemon, of course, is classic.
Classic,
of course,
classic,
right?
bro.
Pokemon understood the assignment hardcore. They knew what the fuck to do.
Here's the funny part, Dagan, with Thundercats. again, growing up in the household of JW,
Oh, right.
they try to ban me for watching Thundercats. It was like it's Demon Sword of Omens. It's satanic. You can't watch that. Yeah, I was still watching Thundercats. You know what I'm saying? I was going to my cousin. I call K. I'm like, I ain't stopping. None. I'm getting that Thundercat. That was fire. Greatest Thundercat episode was an episode called The Anointment Trials, where Lion-O had to face each other Thundercat.
Yeah.
To beat them to
I think
prove.
I remember this.
Right. And one of the greatest was actually the Jatara, because I'm like, he not beating Jatara in no race. Like, but what they did, the MacGuffin was like, she's the fastest, but in terms of long distance, short distances. So in long distance, then he ends up pulling out, and that's how he beat her. Because I was like, okay, Tigra, okay, Panthro, okay, how they gonna do it? But yeah, so the Jatara one was a good one. Got one for you, Jade. From legends long ago. There lived a heroic robot. So space explorers. That Voltron boy. Peter Cullen is Optimus Prime doing the narration. Before Transformers. That's Peter Cullen's voice.
That
does the narration. Bro, Thundercats, the Lions, and old head cog does get a little jelly at Power Rangers kids, because I'm like, all y'all did was stole from Voltron. That was really Voltron, the Five Lions.
It was Voltron.
Yeah. Voltron, bro. Yeah. Voltron is iconic. Yeah. Again, you want to talk about heroic theme music. I hear that, I almost tear up. I thought Voltron, it's over.
I had a Voltron toy too with a sword.
Oh, I never had it.
So good, you know.
Blazing sword. Bro, you know, speaking of delisting, there was an Xbox Live Arcade Voltron game.
No way.
It was 5 players, shoot 'em up, and you could form Voltron. Each one had a specific thing, and you could form the blazing sword.
No way.
Delisted.
Really?
Bro, it was an Xbox for the 360.
Defender of the Universe.
Really?
And I guess from a licensing issue, they must have lost it.
Definitely a license.
Bro, I can't find it. It's not on PC. It was all, bro. I'm telling you, LSM fam, if y'all know a way for me to get a hold of that Voltron game, please let me know. There's got to be a way.
I got to look at this.
Bro,
just like when I asked people for the Godzilla game that everyone hated by Toho, and I was like, no, man, that game's actually good. You just actually have to understand what it is. And someone sold it to me for like a good $150.
$150.
Wow,
crazy. And the last couple was just like shout outs. Remember Dagan? Bionic 6.
Of course.
Oh, wow. Bionic 6. Mm-hmm. Leader 1, Karate 1. Everyone had a 1.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember this. Yeah. I didn't watch it that much, but I totally remember.
That's a big one.
Classic for everybody, I would say, is just Looney Tunes in general, right? You know, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Elmer Fudd, you know, all that is just classic. Mass obviously had its run. I like the little purple motorcycle thing with sidecar. That was one of my favorites in Mass.
Oh, Tiny Toons. I love Tiny Toons.
Tiny Toons. Yeah. Remember DuckTales?
Of course, DuckTales, dude.
DuckTales.
Formative. Yeah.
Scrooge McDuck and all of that. And diving into the money and all that.
Iconic.
And then I would say
of course, right?
Oh, the songs.
Oh yeah. Speaking of theme songs, yeah. I mean, that's probably the greatest one.
One of the best.
Yeah,
it might be the best theme song of all time. Yeah,
bro. DuckTales was fire. Did they have like a video game too?
They did, yeah, by Capcom. Yeah. You know, this is when Disney and Capcom were making fire games, bro. They were in sync, like locked in, Aladdin, bro. DuckTales. Oh my god.
And I would say
Mickey Mouse game.
Hell yeah. And I would say that my final honorable mention is, I feel like this is what I'm getting older now, but cartoons really started getting peak. Because shout out to Batman and the animated series.
Of course. Oh, dude, come on. Yeah.
Batman.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, I focus too much on the 80s, but you know, I think
90s. Yeah.
I think a lot of people count Batman the animated series along with The Simpsons as like two of the greatest shows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like of all time, period. Not even animated shows, just shows.
Shows, period.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And shout out, what's our man that did Joker's performance in Batman? Like, I love Joker. Mark Hamill.
Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. Luke Scott. Yeah, bro. His performances there were awesome.
Kevin Conroy.
Rest in peace.
You can hear him in the latest Devil May Cry Netflix series, and he does a fantastic job as a bad guy. And he's always wanted to be a bad guy.
Oh, that's so cool.
He's always wanted to voice a bad guy. He never got to, because he was always typecast as a justice-seeking hero.
Right.
And then finally in Devil May Cry Netflix, he was a bad guy, and he is fucking terrifying. He
nailed it.
Like he sucks, man.
Oh,
Like,
that's so cool.
Yo, this is pure bad guy. He you can tell that he loved being that character.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what's up.
One of the good things about that show, I think.
Oh, yeah,
I've actually kind of come
Absolutely.
around to the Devil May Cry Netflix series. I think if you're not that into the lore of Devil May Cry, you should check it out. You'll have a
So
good
check it
time.
out.
Mm.
Yeah, but those are mine. I had to shout out. Those are probably the ones I mentioned, the most influential on me were those ones I listed. On some level, they definitely carried with me.
Yeah. Also, like Dragon Ball too for me. Like I grew up on Dragon Ball before Toonami. Because again, I was close to Japan. So I was able to see, Japanese. Like I knew Goku's voice was like, like super high before he was like Gohan, before he became like Americanized, or whatever. Like I
Right.
so like when I heard him become like Gohan, what's up? Like I was like, oh, this is weird. I like it though, and I now hear he's two different versions of Goku in my head.
Yeah.
It's like they're both normal, but
Dagan, real quick deep cut. Johnny Quest.
Oh man.
Remember Johnny Quest and his
so
friend
classic.
Haji?
yeah.
And that's what inspired the Venture Brothers too.
Wasn't he
I
like
don't know if you guys
a
were
rich
Venture Brothers.
kid? What was he? Johnny Quest was like rich, I feel.
Yeah, he was like Richie Rich and James Bond mixed together. Oh yeah, there was the Arabic kid. Yeah,
That was the first Arabic
Haji,
kid I ever seen. I was like, oh wow, who's this? His friend Haji.
culture. Yeah, see, yeah, culture.
Culture, man. I literally no lie. That was probably the first experience I've ever seen. Anytime really, I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah,
Let's
you
go.
might be right about that. Yeah.
On screen. I don't remember prior to Haji.
Yeah.
and then no one brings this up, but James Bond Jr. I love that shit.
I don't know it.
Yeah. That nobody watched that shit. Nobody watched it. It's a deep cut, but
That's a deep cut.
But like, I love the theme song, James Bond, James Bond Jr.
Is that 90s or 80s?
90s, and
90s.
he's just James Bond's kid. He just has access to all this shit. He's not getting laid because he's like underage, I guess.
Dude, that's
James
so
Bond
funny.
Jr.
But James Bond Jr. was my shit too.
I
love
never
that.
even heard of this. It looks exactly like Captain Planet. It has to be the same team.
Remember that Captain?
It's
exactly
probably
like
the same house. Yeah.
Looks like
That's
the same
funny.
animated house. I know Gene. Dagan got stories now to tell us.
Oh, that's so funny, man.
Yeah,
That's
Dagan,
so
No,
yeah.
I'm satiated. Yep.
Yeah, Dagan,
Oh,
how'd you even get into why'd you get into cartoons in the first place? Yeah,
That was
and
my-
apologies to the LSM audience if they've heard the story before. Because
I mean, they may have heard it before.
I have to imagine that you
100%.
told us before. But
Yeah, my grandpa was sort of a frustrated. He was an animator, but he never really went into it, and a cartoonist, but he never really went into it for a living. In fact, he inherited one of the family businesses and became. He owned a salon downtown in Manhattan, and he was a hairdresser. So I think I never really had the discussion with him about how that came to be, but I think there was probably some inherent pressure on him to take over one of the family businesses. His family also owned a fish store in Brooklyn, but for some reason he took over the salon and that became his trade. You know what I mean? That became his profession, but he loved cartoons, especially Disney. And I think he also took, like, he was a working artist in a hobbyist capacity. And I think he took life drawing classes in New York at the Art Students League with a lot of actual professional animators, and were rubbing elbows with them as he was growing up and becoming like a young dad. And at night he would run over to Art Students League. I think they were in the, I don't know exactly where that was located back then, but he would, like, there were animators from Terry Toons and maybe the remnants of Fleischer and all the other New York based animation studios. Maybe it was in the Flatiron building back then. And so he always had one foot in just kind of loving it and being fascinated with it. And when I was 5, he just sat me down. I remember it like it was yesterday. It's so weird. And sat me down and taught me how to draw Mickey Mouse. And from that moment on, I was just fascinated. I think I was less fascinated by the cartoon than how is a person drawing that? Like, how are they making that come out of their hand? Or just coloring in a coloring book. Like when I colored in a coloring book with my mom, for instance, no offense to moms, it was like, all right, this adult's better than me at staying in the lines. But when my grandpa colored in a coloring book, he would do the rendering and blending the colors and the shading. And I was just absolutely awestruck by just artistic ability, and it was like a little bit of like fascination, a little bit of frustration. Like, why can't I do that? So he planted the seed really early on. I don't even know that it was intentional, like, you're going to become an animator, but he just kind of gave me the bug. And from that moment on, you know, being a really little kid, that's it's not even like I grew up. I didn't think I'm going to grow up to be an animator. It's just the only thing I threw any bandwidth at.
Gotcha.
Like I couldn't be bothered with anything except for drawing. You know, I never put any kind of effort into school. I mean, beyond a certain grade, like once I got out of third grade, it was like, you know, I'm not going to, you know, I don't want to do math. You know what I mean? I was a terrible student. So all I wanted to do, I had like a one track mind and I loved cartoons. I think cartoons were like, aside from the drawing and being fascinated with the art end of it, they were just like, I think I was a pretty anxious kid and cartoons were just my escape. You know, I felt like they were colorful. They were fun. They were set in a fantasy world. I could just get out of my own head. It's just kind of an anxious, I wasn't a depressed kid. I was just anxious. So they were like my refuge cartoons, you know, and, you know, that's really where it started for me. And then, you know, as I got older and I started to develop an ability for drawing, and he would be the one. My grandpa was like one of my best friends. Now, he passed right before I graduated from art school, but at least he saw me get to that point. But he knew my propensity for slacking off and, you know, not applying myself and stuff. So he would always tell me, like, don't waste your talent. Like, he would always be in my ear with that. Like, don't waste your talent. Keep your eye on the prize. Stay the course. That type of thing. So by the time he passed early, you know, he died when he was young. I mean, he was like 72. He wasn't like an old man by any means. I think that was part of my inspiration for being really kind of laser focused on a career in animation. Plus, you know, it's the only thing I think over the years is kind of the only thing I was good at. You know, it was the only thing I could really see myself doing. And then it came with this. Gaga already talked about this. Battle of the Planets.
Oh, bro, I'm so
Man,
jealous. Right? You got the gotcha macho.
Yeah, I have a friend who his dad's still in Japan, so when he goes, he just gets me a bunch of postcards.
Speaking of, that's to cut you real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Another reason why I love that show, that remember we talked about Transformers with the whole Starscream Megatron dynamic. That was another show that I first introduced, like number 2, always challenging number 1 was a Jason versus. Like,
yes,
I love when shows add little dynamics to that. I always think that's so cool. When
that's a great point.
Yeah, they infighting. I kind of love that.
Yeah, and that was a lot. That was pretty heady stuff for a kid. Yes. But kids got it. But very little kids content would put that in. Like the rebellious number 2. That was kind of challenging the leader. Or maybe he was just a little more of a hothead and would like, right, like Raph would become in the Ninja Turtles. Like he'd rather go off on his own and fight with the team. You know, but kids inherently, that's what taught our generation. Like you could put that into storytelling for kids and they'll understand it. You don't have to talk down to them.
Yes.
So yeah, that was definitely a thing. Even if I couldn't articulate it at that age, you saw something in it that was special.
Absolutely.
And when I first saw that was my introduction to anime. I was 6. So it was probably 1980 or 1979. And forgive me, the people have already heard this story. When that came on TV, I was so obsessed with it that I wanted to stop. I remember it was getting in the way, whenever it aired, was getting in the way of like Saturday morning baseball practice. And I would just be like, Mom, I don't want to go. Like, I don't want to go to T-ball. Like, I just want to stay home and watch this. That was the first thing where I was like,
Wait, Battle of the Planets, was that for you?
Yeah, that was the thing where it was like, I'm not going.
Shared his love for. I didn't.
Yeah, I'm not going. Like, I was just like, I got to watch this. This is really important. And I also acknowledged it. Like, I knew it was foreign. I knew it wasn't. Yes. I couldn't tell you it was Japanese, but I knew it wasn't the standard shit we were watching. Like, this was actually different. You know. And then I started to learn about Made in Japan and. You know, the toys that were coming over at the same time. Late 70s, for Gen Xers, like that was a period where, you know, we were getting, you know, Transer Z and like Shogun Warriors and that kind of thing.
Hell yeah.
Kaiju. With, you know, the Godzilla films and, you know, Toho with all that kind of thing and Shaw Brothers with the Kung Fu. So it was like this Asian pop culture takeover where it kind of started Bruce Lee. You know, everything was kind of like, all right, this stuff is not where I'm from.
And you could tell the sophistication of the animation styles. It was just a flavor that was different, right?
Absolutely, dude. It was so, it was, I always talk about it, you know, because I'm old. There was the superhero typical Superman men in tights stuff. And this was different. It focused on teenagers. which, as a little kid, you're looking up to teenagers automatically because they're not the nerdy adults. They're just the big kids, basically. So we identified that. And then, you have the hot teenage princess angle in June, right? The swan. Like, it's like, all right, she's, one of my first crushes. It was Princess Leia and then June. Like, June was like the second one, right?
Yes.
So there was all that. So that's how animation started for me, man. It was just, it was mostly my grandpa. I'm not sure how it would have gone because I still would have loved cartoons, but he gave me like the glimpse from the other side of the camera. Like, there's people that create these things. I was already mindful of that as a 5-year-old. Like, there's people that have to draw this. So it was like a glimpse behind the curtain that I wouldn't have had without him, because I'm not even sure. I think there's a lot of adults now that don't understand animation. Like, how is this made?
Yeah.
So he was kind of that shortcut for me where I learned early, like, this is made, by a staff of people sitting at drawing tables and filming them under cameras and,
nice.
That type of thing.
Hell yeah.
But for cartoons, I mean, I could go on and on. I think there's always been 3 categories for me. There's cartoons, right, which are the comedic, more wacky, silly, whimsical, usually in a less realistic style, maybe a little more simplistic, like a newspaper cartoon aesthetic to it. And you think of silly from everything like from Bugs Bunny that spans through the years of, Ren and Stimpy, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what I would call a cartoon. And I love that genre. And that's a broad thing that spanned over decades and all that. Then there's animation, which I would say is anything more quote unquote serious, right? You have the slightly more solemn tone, not necessarily comedic or humorous, the superhero stuff, Super Friends.
Yes.
All the glorified toy commercials that we grew up loving, Transformers, G.I. Joe, you guys talked about Thundercats, all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then there's anime, which is like a whole nother thing.
Oh boy.
Which I learned about, super early. And then we had the TV stuff that we were exposed to, whether it was Robotech or Voltron, which you guys already talked about, or Battle of the Planets. And then later on, just discovering OVAs, and like there's a lot more going on in Japan than what they're showing on American television. Yeah. So in the late 80s, when OVAs and, direct-to-video stuff started to come on my radar, that was when it was like, oh my God, there's a whole nother world that people don't know about, nice. And then of course that gained a head of steam until they became, mall stores selling this shit, So that was, and then to say nothing of the cinematic feature film stuff like Studio Ghibli, which is in a class of its own, right? But for me, and it's hard for me because this would probably, if I did this topic every week, what I talked about would change every time I discussed it. But what's had two things have had a huge impact on me as an animation fan turned animator. One, the first thing is I'm old enough where I came into animation after being a fan my entire life, right? I graduated from art school when I was 22, went into the industry, and my mentors, especially the slightly older ones, were guys working on the shit that we're talking about right now. So I got to meet people who's like, my producer on one of my first shows was like, yeah, I was over at D working on Inspector Gadget. You know what I mean? I was working on the Sunbow Transformers.
So that's jealous.
And I knew Peter Chung, like who did the storyboards for the Transformers, the movie. Like these were guys that were already, that were 20 years older than me that were working in animation in the 80s. So I got all the kind of, I got the backstage pass. Yeah, I got all the behind the scenes stories about making that stuff directly from the horse's mouth, which was amazing. And, I kind of half fanned out. And now these people are just my friends, and a lot of them are retiring or retired now.
That's dope.
So those are the kind of guys that brought me along in the industry, which was kind of neat, especially as the industry was turning, especially with the evolution of the computer, because these guys were doing it with, paper exposure sheets, flipping drawings on a light table and filming them under a giant traditional 30 millimeter Oxbury cameras, so that was cool. And then the second thing was just realizing the things that really had a huge trickle down impact on the animation industry itself. And the one thing I'm just gonna name one thing that was super influential to me, but I know a lot of animators, especially animators my age, will definitely echo this sentiment.
Mm-hmm.
Gorillaz, Jamie Hewlett and Damien Albarn's Gorillaz was a frigging, like, I can't even tell you how important Gorillaz was for animation, for inspiring the way things went, and for sort of paving a new way but also calling back to a lot of things in a retro capacity that inspired us. From everything from Led Zeppelin to Star Wars, hip hop, graffiti.
Hell yeah.
Right? All those things were the Gorillaz is an amalgamation for someone our age, especially my age, 'cause I'm a little older than you guys, of everything
reggae too. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just huge. And, if you talk about Gorillaz, it's Jamie Hewlett, who is, he was a comic book artist and an illustrator. And I still think Jamie Hewlett's one of the most talented artists on the planet, period. Like, I'm not even saying as a commercial artist. He's just one of the most talented dudes, maybe the most talented comic book artist to ever come out of England, hands down. The guy's, he's just, to me, somebody who's he's in a class unto himself. You know what I mean? Like, few people could touch him as far as his iconic style, but also just traditional drafting. The guy could draw his fucking ass off, he's just amazing. And I think a lot of people get mad at me for saying this. I think there's a chance there's still an outside shot that Jamie Hewlett is Banksy. I think it could be. I don't know.
It'd be cool.
He's brilliant. And then Damon Albarn, who, even if you're not a Blur fan, came out to say, I'm going to be the musical, half of this duo. And we're going to create this Archie dynamic where the band are just these animated characters. But we're going to make it so much cooler than Archie, And it's
Archie.
just the style, the animation done by Passion Pictures, which is a great movie studio / animation studio in England and London, based in London, who do all the animation for the music videos and the stage performances and stuff. So it's kind of like this trifecta of Jamie Hewlett, Damon Albarn, and Passion Pictures, and then guys like Robert Valley, who is the director at Passion Pictures, So it's like this Gorillaz had a huge impact stylistically. It had a huge impact in terms of quality.
Mm-hmm.
It was a return to the music video, which was an art form that was falling off the face of the planet before Gorillaz came out. So, and it just inspired a lot of artists to do things that were outside of the traditional TV and feature film format. Gotcha. I think they flirted with doing a Gorillaz feature film over the years. It's gone in different. I know DreamWorks had it for a little while. I got to tell you, I'm so glad it never happened. A Gorillaz feature film would just kind of completely demystify and dilute the entire thing. I just give it to me in 5-minute snippets.
Gotcha.
3 to 5 minute snippets, music videos. Let the characters have mystique. Don't over explain anything.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
And call up horror and zombies and all these other things that there's so many cool things integrated into the fabric of what makes Gorillaz. It's like every cool thing.
Yeah. How you feel about that is how I'm nervous where I heard that the Russos are doing a Gotcha Man.
Oh, I didn't know about this.
Yes, they've been sitting on that project. And there's a part of me that's like, does it translate well to real? Like, you know what I mean? I would have to see.
It's easy to mess up.
Yeah, it's easy to botch that one. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, and I like the Russos, and you know how much we love Battle of the Planet / Gotcha Man, but I was just like, yeah, I don't know how a real time would do, but hey, let's see. They've been sitting on that project for a long time.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I always wonder when something's sitting in development hell, if they're just waiting for the technology to catch up. I could see Tatsunoko needing the money. Yes. I mean, they're not largely, they definitely meander into terms of, periods of irrelevancy, right? They're not even like a Capcom or something like that right. Always manages to find a way to keep the coffers full. Mm-hmm. And Gotcha Man's one of their biggest things.
Hell yeah.
So so that's interesting. But yeah, I think for me, I had to really think about what I was going to say because there's a lot of things to call out, but Gorillaz was a huge thing for me starting in the late 90s, early 2000s. And just for me, even though it goes in waves, it seems to fall off. and got forgotten about. And then they kind of they resurrect it. And these are guys that do other things with their career. So it's kind of started as a side project. And I don't even know if they anticipated it ever being as big as it got. Mm-hmm. So there might be that sort of thing involved.
Kind of bigger than the Blur, honestly,
Oh, I think so.
Right? At least globally. Yeah.
I definitely think so. I mean, Blur's biggest thing before Gorillaz was their beef with Oasis. But I feel like Oasis was always a lot bigger than Blur.
Oasis was bigger. And even I liked Oasis better for a while until I actually listened to Blur. And I was like, okay, well, Blur is clearly the better band. So, like 100%. But I did love Oasis' anthems. Fun fact, I've actually met Dan the Automator, Dan Nakamura.
Oh, shit.
Ooh, salute.
Yeah, him and Kid Koala came to Honolulu for Deltron 3030. So, of course, and promoters, they got me into the show. I got to meet them.
Fire.
Did you meet Del?
I did not meet Del. He was not there. So.
Oh, wow.
Shout out to Dan, that Automator.
Dude, that's amazing. And I love the way that connects full-fledged because Del's in the Gorillaz.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Which he wasn't going to be.
I mean, Del was there, but I didn't get to meet him. So.
Oh, dude, that's so
he
cool.
Performed. Yeah. Damon was not there.
The fascinating thing about Del is he tells a story that they had another rapper pegged for that part to be in Gorillaz. And the guy notoriously was like, fuck that. Like, I don't want to do that. And Del always talks about that. So he was like the runner up. He was the second choice, but Del's never said who the other guy was. And I'm so curious.
Interesting.
I'm just so goddamn curious about that. Who could it have been? I don't know.
Kanye West.
Yeah, he turned it down.
We would have had a totally different. Man, did you see that latest Ye revelation?
Oh yeah.
No, what happened now?
I'm not even sure if I can say it without even like potentially delisting this video. So I won't.
You might not want to.
It's so bad that I don't even want to repeat it. So
really,
it's worse.
This is new though.
It's worse than
it's new. No, it's new. Just put Ye and cousin.
Oh.
And then just Google that. You'll get everything you need to know.
and you'll find all you need to know. Saying that alone enough is pretty bad. So
yes.
The guy just won't stop.
Yeah. That is interesting though. I think I remember hearing that Del was a second choice, but He
says that. He says he was even a little reluctant at first because he didn't know exactly what they wanted.
It's a weird project, But dude, I used to rap his parts all the time.
So good.
Finally, someone let me out of my cage. Time for me.
That was the best, man. I love it. I love
that was a karaoke staple,
Oh yeah, that's a great karaoke song.
Yeah,
that was it. Good. That was their first single. Clint Eastwood was their first thing.
Yeah, that was a reggae song basically. It's crazy. Boom, bop, bop, boom, bop. The upstrokes.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
It's crazy. Gorillaz is so fucking good, dude.
I love it.
They were like my favorite band. They came out when I was in college. Yeah, they were just like my favorite band. And like shit like that and like NERD, Neptunes really made me want to start a band, like a hip hop band. And the Roots, of course, too. Like that, dude, this was like a time when like hip hop and music, like live music was really, really like in sync,
Yeah.
And then it just all stopped. And it's just all whatever now, Well, Southern hip hop took over, which I'm happy with because I love Southern hip hop. But it was a really exciting time for like live music, drums, like real drums, guitars, funk rock. NERD had their like metal album, It was, I mean, this is rap rock. This was the era of rap rock.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
So like a lot of people were kind of playing around with that sound until it just got kind of old and kind of stretched that to the limits, really. So.
And they still tour sometimes. Have you seen
Deltron still has a tour right now. I just looked it up right now.
Oh, is he touring
right now?
Yeah, there's a 25th anniversary tour with Kid Koala and Del. So yeah, they're going around soon.
Cool.
Let me see.
That's super cool.
DC there's a DC show October. Oh yeah, I'll go to that one, dude. I'm gonna see Dan again, dude.
It's going down the anime.
Oh, dude, that's so cool. Did you guys know Del and Ice Cube are cousins?
Yes,
I never knew this.
Yeah,
until like a month ago.
Yeah.
Like, wait, what?
That's part of the whole. That's part of his lore. It's
so
crazy,
cool.
Lore. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And definitely went in different directions. Del is a guy who frustrates me because I feel like he should be so much bigger than
so much bigger than what he was. Yeah.
It was really sad. Yeah, it sucks that like his biggest projects were Gorillaz and Deltron and everything.
But he seems satisfied though. He doesn't seem like he's jaded over that.
Yeah.
Proto culture. Remember that song?
So good.
Culture,
yeah, calling out Robotech. I mean, he doesn't get enough credit for doing the nerdy shit.
Dude, he was rapping about rival schools, man.
Yes.
Come on, dude. Like,
Come
that's
on,
crazy.
man.
Shout out
Yeah,
Del,
he is a
man.
rapper for us gamers for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Funky homo sapien.
OG nerd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but kept it real. Well, dude, that was. I mean, I'm satisfied. I could talk about animation. All day.
Yeah. We could talk about cartoons.
Dude,
yeah, we could. Yeah, like we even touched the 90s, or even even now, bro. Even now,
we missed out the whole thing, dude.
Even now, there's so many great like cartoons and animation going on.
We can have that in like generational segments, and
it could be a whole podcast.
You're absolutely right.
A whole ass other show. So I'm satisfied for now.
I did want to remind you guys though, they did do a DuckTales remake. Gosh,
we did.
It's been like 5 years, maybe 5 years ago. Don't quote me. You can see it on Disney Channel. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I won't judge it, but it's not the original DuckTales. It lacks some of the charm. It's a whole different thing because it's all done digitally now. It's 2D animation, but with the digital tools, you know. Yeah. But you know what is cool about it? They were able to go in and make nods to the game. The iconic NES game that they weren't able to do in the first season because it didn't exist. Right. So there are a couple of really touching tributes to the game. I won't ruin it for you guys that they are able to do in the new series. They definitely call out, you know, they send up the game, maybe even the first 2 games, especially in the music. That's all I'll say, but it's super cool. So that is one cool thing about having the new DuckTales remake, although I didn't see a lot of it. The game tributes are neat. You know, you can tell it's made by fans that grew up with this shit. You know what I mean? So again, it's like that full circle thing of like
full circle moment. Same thing. I want to shout out Voltron's newer update as well. People say they really. I watched a little bit of it. It was like you could tell the fan service and then later animation. People really, dug it.
I liked it. I liked it. Yeah, that was Netflix, right?
Yes.
Yes, that Netflix. Was very. I think it was very well done. A lot of people were criticizing the robot and stuff. I was like, well, they're reimagining it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's still the thing is still there. The characters that. You know, I really enjoyed that.
There was a She-Ra on Netflix too, which I should have watched. You know, because I love She-Ra too. She was speaking of hot women in He-Man. You know, people are like, oh my god, why it's so woke? There's a girl over there, dude. You know, do you not want to see hot girls? What is the issue here? This is crazy. You want to see the gay guy, He-Man? You know, Prince Adam. You know. His pink ass shirt, you know, it pulls all out and everything like that, you know, like, dude, like he looks hot, you know, he's got his titties out and everything, you know,
beefy boy.
Yeah, he's a beefy boy, you know.
Prince Adam and Cringer, right? Yes. That it was He-Man and Battle Cat. Is that what it was?
Dude, Battle Cat was so cool.
So cool. Yeah, man, we could just go on about that forever. We gotta keep it in check.
We gotta keep it in check.
All right, you guys. I'll close out today with my topic. Want to ask you guys about your favorite rivalries.
That's a fun one.
Okay, now this could be real life. This could be pop culture, fantasy, movie, fictional, non-fictional, whatever. The only caveat I said in the email is that if you name a sports rivalry, which I could relate to that, just name another one as well. So don't just do a sports rivalry. And, you know, I'm thinking in terms of like I said to you guys, Ryu, Ken, Coke, Pepsi, right? Yanks, Red Sox. It's one that speaks to my heart. You know, this could be, that Harry, Draco, you know, that type of thing, rivals. And I don't even know. I love a good rivalry. You know, I think of the ones I grew up with, like Rocky, Apollo, Creed, right? But I love the rivalries. I need you guys' help with this. And people listening too. You guys could leave comments in the YouTubes. I love the rivalries where there has to be that uncomfortable team up between the two enemies. Like they have to cooperate for a minute against a common foe. You know, work together. There's that mutual respect, although essentially they're enemies. And I can't think of a good, I know it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of a good example of that.
I got a good one.
Give it to me. Well, give me a good,
if are you done with your
I want to know like I want to know your favorite rivalries, but if you could help me out with that kind of dynamic where it's like these competitors, but sometimes they got to work together against a common foe or something.
This is a timely one.
That's my favorite kind of rivalry, and I can't think of one. So, Gene, I'll pass it over to you first.
Dante and Virgil in Devil May Cry series. I don't know if you played them, Dagan.
No.
Okay. They are brothers.
Yes.
And they're twin brothers.
Okay.
They basically look exactly the same. They have similar powers. And that's why Devil May Cry follows the ultimate rule of cool, in that the coolest boss battles are the ones where the enemy is the same size as you and they're just walking towards you. And that's it. And you have that fight, the equal fight of skill and size. And that's exactly it. Dante versus Virgil.
That's cool.
Virgil has the samurai sword, the Yamato, and Dante has his Force Edge, or the sword of Sparta, the sword of his father. And they both each have different amulets. Now, the cartoon on Netflix, this is all coming together. It's all horror cartoons and rivalries right now.
See this?
It's all in the Devil May Cry Netflix series, baby.
Yeah, bro. Synergy with these topics.
But in that one, they kind of rewrite the rivalry. But in the games, though, they know that they're both traumatized by their parents kind of like dying or leaving them or whatever.
Okay.
But Dante is cool with it, and Virgil is not cool with it. He is traumatized by death. And Virgil is driven by this obsession with getting more power. He needs more power. To him, power is the only way he can protect anybody, including the ones he loves. And if it means people dying in his quest for power to make sure that he can protect everyone, then it doesn't matter, right? And that's what makes him a villain, because he doesn't give a shit about anybody as long as he gets more power. Dante is just chill. He just wants to eat pizza and just like live his life, right? And stop Virgil. But to your point about team ups, though, that's where Devil May Cry 3 comes in, because spoilers for Devil May Cry 3, which is a 20-year-old game, right? So
it's safe.
But maybe this will get you, Dagan, to get interested, because it's cool, because it has exactly what you want, where these two are at it throughout the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the story, something happens, and then they have to team up for the final boss. The final boss, and the final battle is just two crazy character action characters just slicing out the final boss.
Love it.
And in the final cutscene, they put their two guns together, clink, two brothers, and they say jackpot, bam, and they shoot the guy in the head, and the demon god is dead. And they teamed up. They're like, well, Virgil's like, well, I can't get power with this guy in the way. And Dante is like, well, he's a demon god, so we got to kill him, right? And then he dies, and then the real final battle starts between the two of them, because they have to.
Fire.
Amazing stuff. And then Devil May Cry 5 continues that whole rivalry. And I don't want to spoil that, because that's still relatively new for a lot of people. The game just came out in 2019. But Devil May Cry 5 continues that rivalry story and kind of concludes it, honestly, in a pretty definitive way. And then you realize that, like, you don't really know that the story is about that, but then the story becomes only about that, purely about their rivalry. So I do, for this topic, I was going to bring them up anyways as like my favorite video game rivalry. Not like Cloud versus Sephiroth, which is like sexual in a way, like that's a rivalry too, right? But like it's so like ill-defined. Like, is it sexual? Is it like it could really be sexual? It could really be like loving. It could be hate or anything like that. But it's like with Dante and Virgil, it's definitely like a rivalry, or it's like we are at different odds. We are like philosophically at odds, but we love each other, though. And when it comes down to it, when there's a common good or common enemy, we will have to fight it together. Because we are the sons of Sparta, the sons of the only human demon spawn. And they carry on his legacy.
That sounds amazing. I have to say, that sounds absolutely amazing.
Devil May Cry is fucking awesome. It's so good. It really taps into that pure like 1980s energy of cartoons too. Just good and evil. Which is why the Netflix show kind of fucks it up, because they're like, well, what if the demons have like hearts and they have like human emotions? And it's like, it's like, I'm a millennial, and like I feel like it's a characteristic of millennial writers to be like, oh, well, what if the bad guys actually had a good reason, you know? Like, oh, what if Thanos had it's a fucking Thanos problem, right? Thanos did not need a good reason. Thanos was horny for Lady Death. So
Yes,
he
that
wanted
was
to
the
give
real
Lady
story.
Death as many souls as he possibly
Facts.
could.
That was the real story.
That was it.
So
That was a story, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
But in the MCU, they're like, oh, what if, you know, there's resources and everything. It doesn't make any fucking sense. And he got sad about it, you know?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, it was great drama. I loved it, right? But, you know, honestly, when you come down to it, it was definitely different from the comics. And
Yeah.
it
The
definitely,
comics, he was a simp for death.
yeah, he was a simp for Lady Death.
I don't think
Yeah.
I knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was a
That's
simp
so
for death.
cool.
And then they softened him up by trying to give him a reason, and they try to give a backstory and everything
Yeah.
like that.
I think what it is they couldn't. I think they weren't confident in the audience to deal with the concept of an entity of death, and thus they didn't want to go that route. Because I agree with you, like the story is definitely and not. It was way more. I like the original, but I felt they tried to think it and do all this other stuff to try to help the audience understand.
I'm not making fun of it, really. I'm just saying that it is funny that millennials always tend to do that, and Thanos is probably the most popular example of that, right? I enjoyed it. I love Thanos.
I loved it.
There's a reason why he's so iconic, and that's why everyone now thinks of that Thanos as like the predominant version of Thanos. You know, I understand that. I completely accept that. You know, that's cool, and it was an awesome Thanos. But there's a characteristic in millennial writing where it's like, oh, you know, what if the other side was like this or whatever like that? Like the fucking Last of Us, for fuck's sake, you know?
Yeah.
You know,
too much texture.
To bring
Just
that
let him
shit
be a
back
bad
up, you
guy.
know? Oh, what if the wolves were actually? What if Abby was this or that? You know?
Yeah, I'm not taking that.
I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Rivalries.
Well, what you're saying with Devil May Cry is a very cool version of what we did in the 80s.
What you were looking for, yes.
Right. Like, and you guys remember the arcade Double Dragon? This blew our minds in the 80s.
Hell yeah. Dude, I know what you're about to say.
You fight the final boss, and then you have to fight each other. So essentially, if you're playing two players, only you or your friend could win. Blew our minds as kids.
Yes.
This is a much cooler version of that. Right? Yeah.
But Double Dragon, Devil May Cry, you can't play two players against each other. I mean, you could in the Nintendo Switch version, actually, only that one, right? But
that's interesting.
Yeah, but I think I'm forgetting. But Double Dragon was cool for that. That was mind blowing. That was crazy.
We didn't know.
Arcades, you're like, whoa,
we had no idea.
Yeah, so I've had the Master System version. It was closest to being arcade perfect with the two players because I remember the NES only had the one player.
NES only had one player. Yeah, that's right.
But Master System had two. That's why I was like, oh, we were going great. And then it was the first video game that you beat the boss and then it's not over. You have to fight each other. And I was like, me and Soft looking at each other like, yo, this is crazy. But
games really do that. I think the only other games I remember are A Way Out by Joseph Ferris, right?
Way Out. Yep.
So good. And then the Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow multiplayer game, co-op game, where you are two agents fighting each other or like help, sneaking through, you're cooperating, lifting each other up. And turns out the other dude's a double agent. And then so it's like it's like spy versus spy at the end. That's so fucking sick,
That's cool as shit.
So sick, Ubisoft. You don't fucking make games like that anymore, bro.
What happened?
Ubisoft used to be so creative, man. We're talking about the extraction, dude. Cog, we're talking about the extraction shooter genre right now. Ubisoft invented the extraction genre. People forget that. That shit was in The Division.
Ooh,
and then they're just like,
Dark Zone, baby. Dark Zone, yeah.
Dark Zone, yeah. And that was cool, And I was like, this is cool. I'm glad that it's part of this game. I couldn't play a whole game in this, and now that it's just a whole genre, I guess.
That's a genre.
Right. And then Ubisoft was like, we don't know what to do with this. So, here's Rainbow Six Siege, and that's the only thing we'll make.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Gee, what else you got? You got any other favorite rivalries?
Rivalries. I think the only other rivalry I really have. Well, I was gonna say Kendrick and Drake. That's not a real rivalry though.
That's a beat.
that was a meteor. That was a satellite strike. Like a drone strike.
Yeah,
and then another meteor on the crater. Just to make sure that
nuke it from
space. Just drone strike the crater. Anyways, just keep going. That was not a rivalry. That was just an all-out assault, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I'm gonna take it back old school. One of my funnest rivalries is John Lennon versus Bob Dylan.
I don't know about this. Tell me about this.
John Lennon worshipped Bob Dylan. because of course Bob Dylan is the most influential songwriter of the 20th century. You know, he is. For folks who don't know, and you can watch the Tim Chalamet movie. I guess I should watch that. I really should.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. I should watch it. But I know so much about Bob Dylan's life that I feel like I don't need to see it because I know his life inside and out. So that's why I know the story is that there's the famous meeting where Bob Dylan famously gave the Beatles their first joint. They had only been taking speed pills and like uppers up until then, but they never took anything hallucinogenic and nothing that was like chill and downers, right? And then when they finally met in 1966, Bob Dylan was like, hey man, smoke this, and then they smoked it, and then the Beatles were like, their minds were blown, and then that's when they started tripping out on acid and everything like that, and that's what eventually led to Norwegian Wood, and Rubber Soul, and then Revolver, and then of course the iconic Sgt. Pepper's, which changed the pop music forever. But it all started with Bob Dylan giving him a joint. What? It was really a gateway drug.
It really was a gateway drug for the Beatles. That's crazy, right? But John Lennon worshipped Bob Dylan. Mm-hmm. And then when they met, Bob Dylan was a complete asshole.
Oh, that's the worst when you meet your hero. It is. Oh,
it was a complete classic meet your heroes thing. Where there's a video on YouTube. You look it up, and it's just John Lennon and Bob Dylan sitting in the back seat, the two goats of the 20th century, man. And they're sitting in the back seats, and they are bickering like petty bitches. They are just being like petty and snide to each other. Like John Lennon is saying, like, what are you, just a mop of curly hair and a forehead, and Bob Dylan is like hungover and like out of it, and he's just like talking shit, all kinds of stuff. He's like telling John Lennon, like, I come from the land of 24-hour TV. Do you got that in the UK, huh? Like, just like talking mad shit for no reason, It's crazy. So then after that all happened, John Lennon would write Norwegian Wood, which is like one of the greatest songs, and with the sitar and everything like that. They started hanging out with like bodhisattvas and everything like that. Again, a real gateway into everything. And then Bob Dylan heard that, and he was like, "Hey, that's the way I make music," So then he wrote a song on Blonde on Blonde. I'm forgetting the name, but it sounded exactly like Norwegian Wood, except that he's like singing it like shit,
Damn.
And he's like, he's like making fun of like John Lennon's writing, which is fuck, because the song was great, dude. Like Dylan, like I love Dylan, but he's being a complete jerk off right here.
That's so funny.
And then like John Lennon would like come out with like a song called, I forgot what the song called. Hey, da da da, you got to hide your love away, on the Help album, right? And then John Lennon would say like, "Oh yeah, that's just me being Bob Dylan, Like I just want to show people how easy it is to make music." Like,
shots! Wow, I know it was that deep.
It was deep. It got deep. And then like Lennon would later say like, "Yeah, he was a fucking asshole, man. I wish I didn't meet him. Like it totally changed after that,
Damn.
And John Lennon's also a total dickhead too. So it's like you got the two of the biggest dickheads.
Yeah.
And the two goats, right? Like it was like two egos that you just you shouldn't have put in the backseat of a car together. And that just exploded, but it turned out it created a lot of good music. That's the cool thing about like rivalries, right? Like Drake and like I still like Push-Ups.
Yeah, Push-Up was dope. I like Family Matters.
And I already forgot the name of the Drake song that happened right before Kendrick killed him, but I kind of like that song.
Family Matters. I liked it.
What was it called again?
I think Family Matters.
Family Matters. Just memory hole completely.
Yeah, because it got eviscerated so much we forgot.
I forgot. I completely forgot the name of the track, but the beat was good. What he's saying is bullshit.
Yeah.
But the beat was good, so we got some good. And he started rapping, so it's like good. You got Drake actually trying to rap again. Yeah,
he had good visuals in the video. I remember.
Yeah, it was cool. So rivalries actually like bring out the best in each other, and that's what Bob Dylan and John Lennon did. And it was interesting that John Lennon kind of mellowed out, and like he heard Bob Marley, and he was like, "Damn, I'm kind of depressed," and because Bob Marley is such a good songwriter, And he started like John Lennon started to feel kind of bad, so that's why Lennon started to like play around with reggae sounds and everything like in the late '70s, right before he died. Because he really wanted to play around with that song.
That's so cool.
That sound, because he heard Bob Marley, and he was like, "Yo, man, this guy is fucking cooking," And it's different than Bob Dylan, So but then John Lennon's like, maybe I can do that too, I don't know. Yeah, people always talk about the rivalry between John and Paul McCartney, right?
Yeah.
And that always existed too.
You hear about that a lot.
You know, John Lennon was the more brash songwriter, and Paul McCartney is the melodic. Let It Be, Hey Jude, Yesterday, like very melodic chamber music, you know. And John Lennon is saying "woman is the N word of the world." Like that's a real song lyric that he has. That's a real song title that he has, bro. Like it's crazy. You know,
I never knew this.
Yep.
So you know, and like John Lennon was like doing Primal Scream like therapy too, and so he actually brought that in with his Plastic Ono Band album. You know,
and
but then that's because he was going the complete opposite of Bob Dylan, who was in his Christian bag. You know, Dylan became a born again Christian, so he started playing around with that stuff.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
No, I never knew that.
I think that was more in the '80s, but like I think Dylan had a motorcycle crash, so he kind of mellowed out. He started doing like country songs and everything like that too.
Okay.
And I forget when he started to do. It's been such a long time since I watched or read the Bob Dylan book. That's why I need to watch the movie actually, because I think it would be a good refresher on his life and everything like that.
He's supposed to be very good in it, Chalamet.
Apparently, it's supposed to be really good. I saw a clip and I was like, damn, that really is like young Bob, you know. And then Bob Dylan talks shit about a lot of other like songwriters too. Like he was Kendrick at the time, you know. He put out his own call outs to everybody, you know. Beat me, you know. So like he's like hearing like folk songs with electric guitars. He was like, I invented that shit. What are you doing? He would say that shit. It was crazy.
Claiming it.
But that's why I love Bob Dylan. That's why like again, people are like, oh my god, I can't believe Gene like Kanye West. It explains so much about him. As I do, I love Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan was proto Kanye. You know, Dylan was talking shit to the press. You know,
yes,
like so much. You know, and Kanye's out here talking shit to the press too. You know, but Bob was the first one who was like, you know. Who even reads Time magazine anymore? Anyways, and this is in the '60s, bro.
Yeah,
everybody was still reading Time magazine in the '60s, you know. But he was talking shit to me. He was like, "Who even reads your Time magazine in the first place? You know, what is Time magazine? Come on, yeah,
talking that talk."
So yeah, that's
musical rivalries. I didn't even think about going that angle.
Yeah, but that was a good route.
It's a great one. Yeah, I love that, Gene. Kyle, what about you? Where are you going with the rivalry thing?
I'm thinking too, most of my rivalries that I like I realize are very short-lived. But for whatever reason, they resonated the hell with me. You know what I'm saying? But start with the video game. This is a very in-the-cut one, obviously, for people who know me, that I love Tekken so much. But I remember when Tekken really started to get popular was Tekken 3. And they kind of did a soft reboot, you know, and they introduced like the young generation of the next fighters.
Okay.
And you had Jin Kazama, and then my favorite character, which is Harang, the Korean Taekwondo fighter.
Sure.
And how they framed it was like everyone's like 18, 19. Harang was this undefeated street fighter that like would do underground fights. And, you know, he would have like a team of hustlers and he'd feign his strength and then he'd come out and then he'd beat everybody. And he went undefeated until Jin Kazama comes along, who's obviously the son of Kazuya and whatever. And the lore at the time was they fought to a draw, right? So in my mind, I'm like, oh, Harang he's the truth because Jin is the cover boy of the game, and he's got the devil gene, and he's got all these powers and Korean Taekwondo, my man. Draw. So I'm holding that with a badge of honor. And then shout out to my boy Kamatsu, which is Sal's younger brother. He loves Jin. So we took on the personalities of the rivalry and made them our favorite characters when we fight each other. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it was really good. Shout out to your boy PJ because he, he understands the whole.
Oh, definitely.
Our rivalry as a result of that thing. But I thought it was cool. As far as in the game, it, they always had, Harang always had that angst, and he always wants to prove himself to Jin. Like, that kind of thing. Now, obviously, when Jin got the devil gene and, it's not a fair fight anymore. You know what I'm saying? When you turn into a demon, a devil, at that point is whatever. But then it kind of evolved into this whole, and subsequent Tekkens where it's like, almost like a bromance in a sense, like, I'm not going to let Harang like start to save him. I'm not going to let anything happen to you because I want to be the one to fair fight beat you. So if you got into some other drama, like Tekken 4, you got arrested, what you had to get enlisted to the Korean Army. They all had situations where it pulled away from them fighting each other in a tournament kind of energy. And thus, whatever. So then Tekken 8 comes around and they finally get the little rematch. I didn't like the result, but in fairness to my man, he's fighting. Only time Jin does eventually beat him is when he has to unleash. Harang tests him to that point where he's beating Jin, and then Jin has to use the cheat code of using his devil G kind of thing. But it was really good. I always like, it's really a friendship that and a mutual respect kind of thing. So that would be one.
Love it.
2 is silly because this is again young Cog where I believe wrestling is real, and I'm coming up in the 80s, and bro, Hulk Hogan was everything.
Seriously,
when it comes, when you heard that and you threw the finger up and the leg drop hit, it's over. He beat every single iconic person, was it Bundy and obviously the Andre the Giant, the iconic slam. He was just the, eat your vitamins, do your prayers. He was the spokesperson for kids, and you looked up to him, and, he came to the ring. Again, he's this hulking figure. What is it? The Pythons, brother. I was down at the brother. And, like he'd go into these nonsensical rants, but it was us. It was so 80s. It was larger than life, right?
Huge.
Bro, and I'll never forget. I remember watching Superstars of Wrestling.
Yeah.
Saturday, Superstars of Wrestling. This is how heavy into wrestling at this time. Saturday night's main event, all that kind of stuff. And I'll never forget. It was like, because when a jobber comes out. First, the jobber comes out, and they're going to introduce whoever the new wrestler is. And I'm just like, all right, who's this new guy on Saturday? And I remember hearing that metal track. Dun, 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 dun. I was like, what the hell is going on? What is that song? And this larger than life figure racing to the ring, top speed, tassels, face paint, looks like a comic book character to a kid. Hits the ropes, shakes the ropes, beats it.
Oh man, I remember that.
Bro, when that Warrior music hit, dun, 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 and he destroys people in like 15 seconds. The match is over, and then people forget early Warrior, after he beat you, he would carry the jobber back he pinned him, gorilla press slam, and carry you back to the dressing room. I was like, what is this? Now, granted, he may not have been the most technical wrestler. It was brute force power, and then his interviews were completely nonsensical. The power of the Warriors. And I was like, what is he talking about? But I believed everything he was saying. He was my fictional hero.
He was a superhero, yeah.
Bro, when that music, I remember running up the top of my steps to wait to see what he was going to come on. Like, it was a thing. So
that's awesome.
They built him slow. And I remember the first iconic moment was him winning the Intercontinental belt. And at the time, Honky Tonk Man was the champion.
Oh, man.
Again, another squashing. It was like, it was a SummerSlam. The man came, because first they was like, who's going to face him? We don't, the real opponent dropped out. And then Honky Tonk Man says, get anybody from the back. I'll beat them all. I'm going to get them out of here. And then that music hit and the pop of the crowd. And that was his, ultimate words, first real title shot. And again, he squashes him and he goes through. So you just had this trajectory of Hulk Hogan, the established, but then here's the new generation hero.
Yeah.
And the first thing for me, which is I'd never seen before, was babyface versus babyface. And the iconography of the Royal Rumble. One of my favorite events in WrestleMania was the Royal Rumble. 30 man, every man for himself, over the top rope, right? So they were like, I remember they was like, yo, Warrior's going to be in the Rumble.
The first Battle Royale, man.
Bro, Hulk Hogan's going to be in the Rumble. And I remember I got goosebumps. Warrior, I think.
I want to watch that again, man, dude.
Oh, bro, that Royal Rumble, I forgot which year it was, 1990, whatever it was. I got goosebumps because I was like, they're both in it. We'll see what happens. And I remember when Warrior came and then Hogan was in, and at first they were just working together, throwing other enemies out, but then it became just those two. And I remember hearing Vince McMahon, the commentator, look at this. And you could tell they're selling it. And the crowd's like, yo, what is going to happen? We've never seen this. So you just see the stand out. Warrior, they hit the ropes. Double clothesline. And they're both down. You know what I'm saying? Like, they both have never felt this. The two, what they used to frame it, the two strongest forces in the universe.
This shit was Goku versus Vegeta back in the day.
That's what I was going to say.
The immovable object,
similar, right?
irresistible force. Like, it was magic. It was cinema, bro.
Cinema, man.
Little young Cog's mind was blown.
Shakespeare, you know?
Bro, they made kids pick a side.
Oh, because Warrior wasn't a villain.
Correct.
Okay,
he was a hero.
He was an absolute hero.
Bro, and when that
was fresh, he had that fresh head of hair, so he was like a new look, you know?
Totally
like
different.
90s too, electric, you know?
So 90s.
Like the color scheme and everything like that. Like Hogan looked like it was 80s, you know, yellow and red. Right?
Yeah, right.
Ultimate Warrior comes out and it's like, no, this is Technicolor, bitch. You know?
Well, we got the matching tassels to the face paint, to the trunks with the boots.
Yeah.
Bro, it's hard. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, yo, this is crazy. So again, when that happens, and there was the first meetup, and then I just wanted to see how the storyline was going to go, because basically what ends up happening is that they do team up. They do a Saturday night main event. They team up and they try to be friends against Mr. Perfect and the Genius or whatever. Long story short, somebody clotheslined someone by accident, and now the ego starts. So now it's like, okay, we're going to face each other kind of thing. And they announce it, title versus title, WrestleMania 6, Toronto, hero versus hero, the strongest thing. And as a kid, you had to pick a side. I remember going to school, and there was Hulk Hogan was the dominant factor for sure. Mm-hmm. And again, it's a man that never lost, pretty much, fairly. You know what I mean? You only no clean pin.
Okay.
And the Warrior kids, bro, it was beef every day at school. Mm-hmm. Who was gonna win? Well, my man's better than your guy, and this, that, and the third. And I'll never forget watching WrestleMania 6 and the match they had. And it was, for those two who are considered non-technical wrestlers, it was a fantastic match. You know, they really pulled it off. And then obviously the unthinkable, where Hulk Hogan loses to Ultimate Warrior. Warrior beats him clean. Mm-hmm. Passing of the torch, kind of thing. And I remember going to school the next day, and they had the WWE magazine, Ultimate Warrior, with face paint completely off, holding both the Intercontinental and
right. I remember.
Oh shit! I gotta look at
the
that
face paint.
Iconic moment that had never happened in wrestling at that time. Both belts, bro, this was magic. This was cinema. Now, granted, short-lived. Warrior's run was not that long, and it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
He started to do a lot of nefarious things and quit on the company and hold Vince McMahon hostage for money.
Oh, wow.
I'm not going to wrestle until I get paid because I'm the de facto star. Like, it got messy, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, long story short, it was probably one of the greatest rivalries for me as a kid. And I remember it like it was yesterday. And I would just say, like, I was such an, like the way I was such an Ultimate Warrior fanboy. Ridiculous.
I had the buddy pillow, man.
Remember the buddy pillow?
Nice. The little buddy pillows, you know?
Of course.
You can jump off your couch and body slam them and everything like that, dude.
Bro, I had every wrestling game that Ultimate Warrior was in. I remember the arcade units of WWE Superstars of Wrestling, WrestleFest, you name it. If Warrior was in it, I was there day one. So yeah, that rivalry to me will be peak rivalry, because again, it was the first time babyface versus babyface without no one turning bad, and then it was like the Warriors versus the Hulkamaniacs, and they sold it like everybody. It was like your two deities fighting each other.
That was so smart, man.
So smart.
Yeah, peak WWE. For
wrestling is such peak entertainment, honestly.
Oh, it's so
that's why
iconic.
I talked about it. I think last month or whatever, like that too.
That was Maddie's topic, but Cog wasn't on it.
That's right. Yeah, that's too bad. Yeah.
Cog, and people were lamenting that. People like Cog used to be.
What's
it was just last month. Yeah, this is the one where I couldn't talk about cartoons. So this is this is actually really good synergy between all of us right now.
So what was Maddie's topic that I missed out? Did they say
just wrestling in general? Like
wrestling.
Yeah, because he's not that interested in wrestling. I think I forget.
He got back into it with AEW.
That's right. Yeah. And I've been thinking about getting back into it too.
Right now, it's popping. Everybody's
apparently
going crazy.
That's why it's popping right now. So it's like, dude, like I think I should be entertained by it. You know,
I need to check it out.
I may tap in.
Yeah, I used to be part of when it was the 90s of Monday night Raw era between. I used to watch it back. That was when I used to heavy watch it again. I returned during
Monday
that
Night
period.
Raw was such like appointment viewing, man.
Yes.
Dude.
It was the Monday Night Ratings Raw. You had to see who was what Raw and what WCW Nitro was doing.
And entertainment used to be so good when it wasn't like accessible 24/7. Like you get excited for it, you wait for it. You wait. You talk about it. You reflect on it. You know?
Hell yeah.
It was like the Super Bowl every week, bro.
Every week. Man.
Now all we do is just get the Super Bowl once a year, and we wait for that. That's it.
For that. Yeah, but that was mine. I had to get that off. That was my young childhood.
Just forgot all about him. You're just looking at him, the face paint, the tassels.
Bro.
He was huge too. There's a picture of him standing with Andre the Giant. He was big.
Huge. Slammed Andre the Giant. Bro, he
so
was huge. He was a bodybuilder that turned into a wrestler, and he did things his own way. He was unconventional, but you couldn't deny the popularity that he resonated with the fans. The fans loved him, and the pop. What it was, the real story now that I look back at it, was the real wrestler guys in the back. They didn't like him. They were like, he doesn't respect the business. He's not one of us. He didn't come from a traditional wrestler. So this is a guy that invested so much into his character and believed in the character and the look. Like he made himself into something the unconventional way, and I will always respect him for that because you can't take away the effect he had on people. And that's one thing I remember when he passed. I was like, man, regardless of some of the crazy stuff he's done, I'll never forget the impact he had on me. As that was literally my first kind of like childhood hero. I was like, yo, this is larger than life what I'm seeing.
That's so cool. Yeah, 87 to 92.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan was everybody. What?
Hogan was my hero. I hate that he went political. Like even if he was a Biden's convention, I'd be like, oh God.
Yeah, same thing. Warrior did the same thing. It was crazy.
Did he really?
Oh yeah, Warrior was saying all type of crazy stuff. I was like, bro, you quit.
Yeah, Warrior.
He was like anti-gay. He was anti-this. I was like, oh my God, Warrior, Jesus! This is when he was out of WWE for a while. He was just shooting off the mouth and everything. Yeah. I was like, damn,
that's funny.
That's when I had to learn to separate the man from the art.
He died at 54 years old only. We talked about this before, but 54 is so young.
54 is young.
That is. Crazy. That really is.
Yeah, no, on Wikipedia, here's a picture of him the day before his death. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, what's scary is he actually prophetically called it in his last, when he walked out, he's like, when a man beats his last life and beats his mouth breath, and then literally the next day.
Right. Really?
Bro, it was the wildest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that is wild.
He called his own death. He must have known, but the speech he made, it was very prophetic.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yes. Highly recommend listening to Warrior's last speech, because that's when him and Vince McMahon made amends and they put him in the Hall of Fame. And he calmed down all his rhetoric, because we thought those two would never make up again.
Sure, yeah.
Warrior held the company up at one point, and they took the coin. That's when he changed. He turned his name to Warrior. Just to try to fight for the legal, because they was trying to sue him. He was like, "No, I created the character,
Dingo Warrior,
not Titan Sports or whatever." And he beat Vince in court, and then he even named himself. It was a nasty.
Oh, I see that. His children's last name are Warrior.
Warrior, yes. James Hellwig changed his name to Warrior.
What? Yeah, his kids, Indiana Warrior and Madigan Warrior.
Yeah,
interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. 87 and 92 were his most active. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My last years of high school.
Absolutely.
Wow, what a time.
Oh, that was a good one, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. There's so many good rivalries. I think video games have like the best rivalry. You guys made me think. I think video games
for your Street Fighter. Come on.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. I mean, Ryu can. I mean, doesn't get any better than that, right?
Ellie and Abby, Sonic and Shadow. That's another one where Sonic and Shadow is another one where they rivals and they have to team up, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's Sonic 3, the movie. That's right. Yeah. That's it right there.
Oh, yeah.
That's why it feels satisfying. Video games. Yeah. Video games have definitely some of the best rivalries. And of course, we made fun of Cloud. I made fun of Cloud versus Sephiroth, but that's a classic. I like Kefka better as a villain in FF6, but the relationship between Cloud versus Sephiroth is something special.
Yeah, that's a real antagonist
for sure.
type thing.
Yeah.
And Goku Vegeta, you said it,
of
right?
Course,
there's got to be other ones in anime we're not remembering.
That's Sasuke and Naruto. I think that's.
Oh, there you go.
I think a lot of people might argue that is like the greatest rivalry.
Which
I could totally see. Naruto wasn't like my favorite,
No,
But it was awesome though. So I totally understand why people love that show so much.
I totally missed it. Just too old for it.
What
about you, Cog? You a Naruto guy?
Nah, I kind of
never got into it.
Addict teaches me what's going on with at least animes. I fell out, bro. I'm so out of the loop.
I was heavily into Naruto for a while, and I was like, man, this is going on forever. So I tapped out, because anime just dude, I can't watch One Piece, bro. Like I can't.
And then they'd be like, all right, Cog, all right, I'll check it out. And they'd be like, yeah, it's like 3,000 seasons and 50,000 episodes. And I'm like,
Naruto is so long. I was like, dude, I can't watch this whole thing. I'm sorry. Like Attack on Titan is already pretty long. And like, that wasn't that long, honestly, And Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball, I pretty much tapped out after Frieza and Cell, That's pretty much it,
You missed a lot.
Yeah, I missed a lot. GTA Super, I try to pay attention to, but, and then there was just a whole bunch recently that I wish I watched, but I don't know, it just goes on forever. That's really why I like video games, because they kind of end pretty quickly,
Yeah,
they don't go on
they're
too
finite.
long, like, other than like Bowser versus Mario or whatever, or Link versus Ganon,
Link versus Ganon go forever.
Yeah, that one's going on forever, and may go on forever.
It probably will. Yeah, maybe they should do something with Mario and Luigi, make them a little more oppositional. Have a little of a power struggle there in the Mushroom Kingdom. Do something fun.
I never flirt with that. Right? That's actually a good point.
Well, dudes, I'm satisfied.
Likewise.
Listen, yeah, I feel ready to land the plane. If you guys are, what do you think? We'll go around for goodbyes. We're heading into the weekend. We're all exhausted.
Sounds good.
We had a good run.
Yes.
Today. Gene, I'll say bye to you first, man. What's going on with you? What's going on in life? What do you want to plug? What's going on over the weekend? However you want to take it.
Well, check out my Expedition 33 review. I published it earlier this week.
Nice.
Give it a nice 3.5 out of 4 stars.
Okay.
Are you playing it, Cog?
I'm just about to start it. Yes.
Okay.
It's really, really good. A lot of people love the beginning of it. I thought I was like, it's okay, but I pushed through and I was like, no, this is a fantastic game. Wonderful, one of a kind game. The ending is marvelous. I was like, wow, they really nailed that shit,
Nice.
So like as soon as I got to the end of the game, I was like, oh no, I should, like, I kind of feel like I almost could have given it 4 stars, but
that's
like there's some things that kind of bothered me a little bit.
Okay.
We don't need to get into that, but fantastic game. You're gonna have a great time. So I'm actually gonna be playing more of that actually. Oblivion just came out, but I'm actually not that interested in Oblivion right now. I played it for an hour and I was like, dude, I totally forgot how hard it is to get into Oblivion. Like, there's all kinds of nonsense I had to remember, and I'm not like, if I'm gonna do that, I'd rather play Kingdom Come Deliverance. Which was really fascinating. And if I'm going to deal with a bunch of messy ass crazy systems, I'd rather just do what Casey did.
The evolution of it,
There's something new with that. The old ass Oblivion.
The old one.
That's why it's like Expedition 33 is really nice. And, I'm still playing it. I can see, just maxing out everything for me. I got it on a PC now too, so I'm having fun. I'm fun with that on PC. But yeah, doing that. Going shopping with my girl tomorrow.
Nice.
That's about it. And just
weather's good. We're finally getting some good weather.
Get a lot of sleep too, for sure.
Yeah, sleep and catch up.
I hear that. Yeah, there's just an air of exhaustion.
Yeah,
right. It's just
and the weather sucks out here too right now. It's like really like gloomy and
yeah, it's kind of a gloomy day.
Yeah,
the weather's been good, but it's kind of gloomy.
It's been good. Yeah, it's warm outside, but it's super overcast here. So
yeah, here too.
Yeah, over in the East Coast, we're not having fun over here. So
that's right. We're all East Coast today.
All East Coast.
Cog, what about you, my dude? What's going on with you?
Yeah,
what do you want to talk about on the way out?
Yeah, made it to the finish line, so I'm happy about getting this weekend started. Definitely, like Gene said, I will be resting a bit. I'll catch up on games eventually, probably tomorrow. Actually, Kaibatsu's bride's brother, his birthday's tomorrow, so I'm probably gonna take him out tomorrow. So we might get a little restaurant action. You know what I'm saying? I might take it to one of my spots. I like Taos downtown, so we might do that. And what else I got? Yeah, play some games. So I got Expedition. Definitely going down to start. It's going down. There's too many good things I've heard. I have to get this thing going. And I got to get marathon going as well. I got to get just to see what's going on with the controversy there. And what is it? One more other game. Those probably the 2 games I'll probably just focus on so far. But the main thing is just rest, chill, and then if the weather's good, try to get out a little bit. But I'm definitely looking forward to tomorrow, though, just to get out, see Sov and his brother, and just celebrate, get some birthday drinks and food, and you know what I'm saying,
That
chill out
sounds
with the
fun.
homies, whatever. So yeah, I'm looking for a chill weekend.
Nice. You're talking about Tao's in the city. Are you talking about the Italian place?
No, this was actually like an Asian kind of cuisine.
Okay.
Kind of thing. I know it's what you talk about. Yeah.
You know what
This
I'm
is
saying?
Midtown, like upper Midtown.
Okay.
And it's real nice. It's real nice. It's kind of like a popping spot too, like actors and stuff. I just found out.
Oh, that's cool.
Like there's like a lounge area before you go to the spot. And I was just like, oh, everybody's here all done up. I'm like, okay. This is something else. Dude, I was like, I'm out the loop.
I never saw anybody. I worked in New York for 20 years. I never saw anybody. Like it was like people would make fun of me. Certain studios I had, we would keep on the fridge, like on a magnet, just like a piece of loose leaf paper, and people would see who they saw.
Yeah.
So they run, it was a running list of celebrity sightings. I never saw fucking anybody.
Bro.
It was terrible. I don't know if I just wasn't aware enough or what.
Yeah.
Right?
It goes down New York. You're going to run into somebody.
Just a place to see people.
Yep. Always see somebody.
Just never for me, apparently.
Fair enough.
Never.
What you got going, Dick?
You know what? I got to say something controversial. I know I've touched on this here and there over the last year, but I got to sell. I'm really entertaining selling like all my retro video games. Not everything.
Really? Wow.
I'm going to be very selective about the things I keep.
What's this
with the
about?
intent being that the things I hold on to are very special. Like, I don't think I want to sell my Famicom, my 8-bit Famicom collection. Pretty proud of that collection. And it's kind of an offbeat thing to collect, and it's, something neat, something niche. But yeah, like I'm looking at all my NES games, hundreds. I just think it's time. Like, I don't know. I'm going through this midlife crisis. I have to purge thing. Okay. I love video games. It has something to do with that. In fact, I'm really looking forward more than ever in my life to playing more contemporary things now, especially with the return of Knockback. Newer stuff. I'm not saying new necessarily. Right. A lot of PS3, PS4 probably. But yeah, for the retro, I feel like this studio, you guys can't really see what the room looks like, but I just feel like, there's this overwhelming urge to purge everything. It's not even a money-making thing.
Right.
And I hate dealing with eBay and that kind of shit anyway. It's a drag. Yeah. But yeah, there's just something about, like, I just want to, like, have a clean slate.
Okay.
It's a weird thing. So I'm thinking about doing that. So if there's retro video
games, nobody you can pass off to.
I have so much shit.
Get your bread though. I hate though.
It's mostly NES. Yeah, a little bit of Master System, a little bit of Genesis, a little bit of SNES. SNES probably the second biggest, and a little Mega Drive, and a little bit of PC Engine. And a little bit of TurboGrafx 16. Not much.
Sound like a cool collection.
Sega CD. I got a lot of shit over here, man. I don't know. I don't use it. Just like my wife says.
Just sitting there.
Just collects dust. So I don't really know what I'm doing with the space. It's not like I have a plan.
Gotcha.
It's just like, I don't know. Maybe it's a spring cleaning thing. I don't know what the hell's going on with me. I really don't.
You gotta figure this out, man.
I gotta see it through. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Listen,
figure it out.
There's worse.
Don't make nothing too rash. No rash decisions. Just think about it, man. But I understand the clutter and the whole.
It's the clutter.
Like I get you. I get
you.
That's
on that the thing. Yeah, I'm just ready to like keep it a little more streamlined, a little more elegant.
Right? Make sure it goes where it's appreciated. That's my only request to you.
Yes, that's
make sure
true.
that it goes to a place of love,
a good home.
Good home. That's going to be the case.
And I think because I have to kind of. My wife's like the opposite. She's like, get rid of everything, and I'm like, what are we talking about, But I think what I'm going to do is replace all this stuff. I just want 1 or 2 really meaningful things. I would love, love, love to get a Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinet. It's one of my favorite video games of all time. Just have the cabinet. I get hit up and in a perfect world, have like a Neo Geo stand-up arcade machine. with a couple of the Samurai Showdown games, and then I'd be content.
Then you're good. You
know, that's an even trade.
Have you looked into the arcade 1-up machines?
No, you know what though, dude? I'm not opposed to that at all. Yeah. The only one I missed out on was Street Fighter 2 Champion.
I have right there, arcade 1-up right there in the back.
Oh, is that Champion Edition? Yeah, it is.
Street Fighter. This is the big blue Street Fighter 2, but arcade 1-up, and it's got Champion Edition. It's got Turbo. It's got Saturday Night Slam Masters. It's got Capcom Pro Soccer.
Oh shit!
It's got Darkstalkers, Night Warriors. It's got the whole Darkstalkers trilogy.
Oh, dude, that's fucking amazing.
And got it for $500. You know.
Did you hack it, or did it come with all that stuff?
No, you can just buy these at Walmart, bro.
But all that stuff came on the one machine?
All that stuff just comes on the one machine. You know, you
it buy looks it for
good
too.
$500, $600. So.
Do you have it on a riser? Because it looks tall.
Yeah, you do have it on a riser. They're much smaller than the real machines, but you do have it on a riser. And it even comes with a stool, bro. It's a Capcom stool.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Yeah, that's sick.
It's cool. It's cool. I highly recommend getting one of these. It's really nice. I always feel really happy whenever I look at it.
Yeah, it gives you that feel.
I love it.
And then sometimes
the make is good. It feels good.
Just to have that atmosphere, you know.
The atmosphere, the light. Oh, I love it. I love it.
And the buttons are good.
Don't get too crazy because Boogie 2988 just wanted to live out his childhood dream of having a home arcade, and he just spent a lot of money, and now he's broke because he just has a whole garage full of those damn machines.
Oh,
so just be happy with your Marvel vs. Capcom 2, just like I am. I'm not like I love Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but you know I got Street Fighter 2. I think I'm good. You know,
that's good.
The only one I might want is, like you said, Dagan, the SNK machine, man.
Yeah, that would be cool.
If you got Sancho, World Heroes, Fatal Fury, Metal Slug, Magic Lord, you know, even
I love that.
Sengoku.
Sengoku.
What do you know about Sengoku, COD? You know, I know you know that. You know
what? Fire! Hell yeah! So many classics, bro.
Yeah, I would love an SNK machine, like a classic old school.
That
SNK
would be
machine,
cool.
but those are probably super expensive too.
Yes, sir.
I wonder though. Yeah, King of Fighters. I wonder if you could hit up like a pizzeria that doesn't know what they have. Be like, you know, dude, this thing's collecting dust.
Most people have it at this point. They know if they kept the arcade this long, know they got some.
They have eBay. They know what it's worth.
They know.
But I'll figure that out. Other than that, nothing really too much going on. Just chilling.
Cool.
All right. I guess we have to do a little housekeeping here, or Colin will find out if we don't do it. Patreon.com/laststandmedia for early ad-free access. As always, and laststandmedia.store has the merch. Go get yourself some fresh t-shirts, some stickies, some stickers, you know. Get Micah to the post office. She likes doing that. I don't know. Does she like? I don't think she likes doing that. Who likes going to the post office, right? But I'm sure they appreciate the loot. Right, that's always good. That's good for the company. Keep the wheels greased around here, my friends. All right, my dudes. For Gene, Cog, and myself, I'm Dagster Moriarty saying thank you so much for joining us today. You're appreciated. We love you. We'll see you next week. It's going to go by in no frames. We're going to be here again doing another show for you guys. In the meantime, we're going to rest. We're going to rest up. We're going to relax. We're going to recharge the old batteries. And in the meantime, you guys can go listen to your second favorite podcast. And that's it. Get out. Peace.
Constellation is a product of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show was conceived by and is directed and hosted by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-host is my brother, Dagan Moriarty. The show is produced by Last Stand's executive producer, Dustin Furman. All Last Stand theme music is by Ramon Narvaez, and all of our graphics and logos are by Dagan Moriarty. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's podcasts, including Constellation, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest support tier, and we're infinitely grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor.